I don't know how many times I've mentioned the Macallan distillery over the course of the vPub. I've certainly not often spoken of it in terms of the subject of a topic or theme. It's one of the brands, it's one of the single malts, it's one of the distilleries in the Scotch whisky landscape that, for reasons that we might be able to explore hopefully tonight, just seems to not appear very often on my radar. It's very deliberate. It's a choice from my perspective, it's my choice. But I also put it to you that it's absolutely their choice as well. However, we're going to try and go through tonight being quite pragmatic and level-headed about everything, and just talk about one of the biggest brands in Scotch whisky, arguably the biggest, potentially when you're talking about single malt. Certainly, the third biggest output by volume, only beaten by Glenfiddich and Glenlivet. It's a juggernaut. It's a massive thing. So tonight's vPub, the time. I'm genuinely looking, and I hope you are too. I'll see you all in a second. Hello, whisky folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night and welcome to the vPub. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing very well. I know that I was short notice and letting everyone know what time and what the topic was going to be on the vPub this week. But I had to make sure it's fine. Everything's fine. It was just a bit late scheduled this week, and apologies to everyone for the short notice, but hopefully we've kind of got a rough idea that we know what's going to be happening at 10:15 UK time on a Thursday night. For everyone that wants to drop in and join us live, of course, thank you very, very much for hanging out with me. Thank you for being here. If you're picking this up on the replay, it means so much to me. I know you see the duration of this video and you see how long it's running for. Hopefully, if my housekeeping is up to speed, you'll see links or timestamps linked down below so that you can scrub forward to the things that you're most interested in and that type of thing. Whether you're here live tonight or picking this up on the replay, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you. Anyway, the Macallan. This was going to be the start of, and it's been an idea for a series for a long time. We've got the ignored, haven't we? These brands that we ignore and things like that. And you could argue that some of the distilleries I'm going to talk about in this series, or I'm going to propose speaking about in this series, fit quite nicely in that lineup. But actually, these are kind of global brands. These are things that when you say something to people about the fact that you love whiskey, these are the brands that you get fed back. You know, these are the Johnny Walkers, these are the Glenlivets, the Glenfiddichs that I've already mentioned, certainly the Macallan. People ask you, oh, you like whiskey, what about these brands, what about these brands? There's very few people that know about brands like, I don't know, Springbank or Ardnamurchan or whatever are true, where our true passions lie as whiskey geeks and whiskey enthusiasts. But they certainly know about these brands. So it's odd then that if they were to ever sit and watch my content, which they don't, understandably, that I never speak about these brands, or I very rarely speak about these brands. So there's a way to kind of talk about that tonight and say, have we just decided that they are not worth talking about, or have they decided that they're going to make it difficult for us to talk about it through accessibility, through pricing, through whatever policies they may have? Why is that the case? And if we're going to have judgments, or if I'm going to share judgments, or if I'm going to compare any of the peer products to them, shouldn't it be on the shoulders of at least some people, mine, to try these whiskies, talk about these whiskies and try and understand them and see how they fit against their peers, see how they fit against the other brands and products that we might be probably leaning a wee bit more towards spending our money on. Anyway, that's the thing about tonight. This is not going to be a deep dive history lesson. It's not going to be all about marketing, and it's not going to be all about drudgery about how expensive everything is. But there's an inevitability that we have to probably dedicate about 25% of our topic tonight mentioning price. Because it's just the way that this particular brand that we're going to discuss tonight is set up. That said, the theme for 2026, as you know, is positivity and whiskey happiness. So with that in mind, we're going to do our best to keep it so as I jump into the lounge and do what I always do and welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. Welcome. It's nice to have you. Cheers. See what's happening in the lounge. If you're trying to get my attention, just type Aqvavitae or at Aqvavitae. In the YouTube chat, occasionally there'll still be a wee comment comes in after the event through, I'll get a notification from Facebook or something if you're watching here. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you. The chat that I'm interacting with and the 200-300 plus people more that are gathering to watch this live on a Thursday night are actually interacting over on YouTube. The facilities on YouTube are much, much easier to interact over there. If you're watching this on mobile or whatever, or if you're wondering where the chat is, it's underneath the video. So turn it portrait, turn it up and down the way like this. And underneath, down the bottom, just underneath the video, you'll see the chat window. There's no comments there yet. That's for comments after the event. If you swipe to the left, you'll hopefully uncover the live chat where everyone's interacting with each other. That's what I affectionately call the lounge. I hope you guys don't mind it. We've got quite a few people celebrating milestones for supporting me as a barfly. That's simply a case of keeping everything ad-free on YouTube. No ads run alongside my content here because $1.99 a month from the barflies keeps it completely ad-free, and it gets them access to a colourful channel themed emoji and things like that, which is always good fun. Andrew Doer is here celebrating being a member for 4 months. Andrew, thank you for helping me pronounce your name properly. I really appreciate it. And he's saying cheers to all you barflies out there and to Roy. Good to have you in, Andrew. And thank you for your support. The Neck Pour is celebrating being a member for 2 months as well, saying evening, Roy and all. It's wonderful to welcome you back here again, my friend. Always a pleasure to welcome you in. Thank you for being a barfly. And Highland Hamish, celebrating being a member for 56 months. Highland, you superstar. Thank you, buddy. Saying greetings from Inverness. Greetings right back at you, big guy. I hope you're keeping well up there, and I hope it's not too cold and too snowy. A member for 33 months is my friend from Brazil. That's Pedro Meneses. He's in saying, he's just saying cheers, using the wee Aqvavitae cheers emoji to do so. It's nice to have you in, Pedro. Hope you're keeping well, my friend. Obrigado to you. And Annabelle Plauta from Australia. Annabelle, I think you're down under, aren't you? On Friday morning for you. You're celebrating being a member for the last 3 months, and it's wonderful to welcome you in here tonight. Still height of your summer, no doubt, and freezing cold January for us up here. Keep losing my cursor with this new setup. Finally done. Celebrating being a member for 25 months and saying evening, Roy and chat. Hope all are well. We are. I hope we're all well. Finally done. It's nice to welcome you and thank you for your support. Jean Kelly saying, hope you're back to normal, Roy. Regrettably, I'll only be able to stick around for about 30 minutes tonight as my wife and I are heading to a Siena U basketball game versus arch rival Iona. Sounds like what we would call a derby. Or maybe it's just an arch rivals game rather than a local derby. But regardless, Jean, you're quite excused. Go off and enjoy your game, my friend. And if you're picking this up on the replay, how was it? It's nice to have you back, buddy. Rob, Too Slow is saying, hey, everybody, Aqvavitae, and thanks, Roy. Good to have you in, Rob. I hope you're keeping well, buddy. And Christian Jensen, Yeasty Boy, is saying, this is the first time I'm skeptical of a vPub subject, but I'm here to learn otherwise. I'm not pouring a Signatory 100 proof M Batch 27. It's the least favourite of all the whiskies I own. Wow, Christian, your skepticism is always welcome. Don't worry about it, but there's no ulterior motive. Remember, for me, any topic I do in the vPub, any guest that I invite, any subject that we cover, it's because I'm in the mood for it. No other reason. None of my content is paid for. None of my content is sponsored in partnership with. There's no favors. There's no free whiskey. There's none of it. In fact, the only whiskies that I'm going to share with you tonight, I actually own. I paid for myself. or one bottle in particular I've borrowed from a pal who lives just round the corner from me, a pal of about 30 years as well. So don't be too skeptical. Relax and enjoy yourself, Christian. And if you're not enjoying that Macallan that you have on hand, no problem at all. Pour anything. You do never need to be on theme. Falsgraf class is insane. Evening Roy, one of these distilleries with a basically great product that they sell in a not so great form, and addressing other customers than most of us. Indies are the way to go here. I think that we might be able to come back to that comment at the end of the stream tonight and use it to kind of to summarize things up. But I want to get a wee bit more nuanced in that class if I'm able to do it. Pete Head is saying, evening, barman. Great to have you behind the Melly Mubby bar tonight. Melly Mubby, I think that's a play on Teletubby, which is a derogatory way to refer to the new Macallan distillery because it looks like the landscape in the kids' TV program Teletubby Land. So I guess Petehead Frank, did I get that right? Maybe I got it completely wrong. Whiskey Weekend Dramhara was saying, good evening, Aqvavitae managed to get a G&M 21-year-old Macallan. Fantastic, superb. That's good work. So that's going to say Spey Malt on the label, isn't it? And George P is saying, evening Roy, glad to hear you're feeling better. I'm absolutely fine. I was complaining about not feeling great last Thursday. Got a lot of messages in from everyone, oh, get well soon, hope you're better, and things like that. And I realised I should just shut up about my health because I don't want people to be concerned, and I don't want people to have to take time out of their day to send me messages about getting better and things like that. My health is fine. But there's lots of winter viruses and silly things going around. And something hit me on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week up till yesterday. But I took myself to bed early last night and I woke up this morning saying, vPub, no problem, let's go, don't worry about it. So everything's fine. Thank you, George. I hope you're well. Jerry Miller is saying, good evening, Roy. Sounds like a good subject tonight. And thank you, Jerry. Let's hope so. There's going to be some whiskey poured into the glass, sloshed around as normal. Let's see how we got on. DVDW, that's Danny saying that you've got some Mac 12 OB samples. Sorry, he's saying, I've got some Mac 12 OB samples, but the Signature Vintage Secret Space Sides have a lot more to offer. It's interesting contrast into, was it Jesper that was a wee bit not very sure tonight? I'm not quite sure if it was. No, Christian, maybe. Christian, I think it was. Dorpass Whiskey saying the new high BV Macallan 12 is intriguing, but question mark. Well, Tim, you might see it appear tonight. And Andy Tiger is saying it became quiet after Macallan built their large distillery. That's interesting, Arnie. I think it's going to be something that we can weave into the discussion, certainly. And Oderte is saying, Aqvavitae, interesting idea for a series. Would you ever bring a brand ambassador on, or would you worry that would limit what you could say? No, I would never worry that it would limit what I can say. There's no secret that way back in the beginning of the vPub, when I was reaching out to people to see if, they weren't really interested back then because, that was Maverick country, or, the YouTube and live streaming, and no brand ambassadors were really confident, or no people in authority were confident to send their brand ambassadors into that environment. So I realized that it wasn't going to be a thing. And I was actually really grateful about that because I want to just say what I say. I want to share my opinions, and I want to take the conversation where I want to take the conversation. So what I do rather than invite brand ambassadors on is I occasionally invite people from the industry, but I don't want to focus on who they work for and what they do and what they're selling, because that's what they do. Every festival, every event, everything, they're selling their portfolio. What I want to do is connect with the ones that are whiskey geeks, lovers of whiskey, ones that I enjoy having conversations with on that level, and where they're all over the place talking about whiskey. Yeah, they can focus on their own portfolios and things like that if they want to. That's their anchor, that's their daily grind. But I want them to celebrate themselves and their whiskey journeys. So I have this series called What the Industry Drink. I've reached out to a couple of people recently in the hope that we can get some interesting guests on, people that, again, once more, that I enjoy chatting with. And what they talk about is incidental. It's up to them. They can talk about whatever they want to talk about. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. There's no script. We're whiskey geeks, enjoying whiskey together. Randy Rice is saying, just looking at the list of top 5 scotches, realised that Macallan, likely the best, just too damn expensive. Used to like Glenmorangie till the rebranding, and the other 4 not impressive. So we've got, if it's top 5, Macallan, Glenmorangie, and Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, and what would the other one be? Monkey Shoulder, I think. Monkey Shoulder is the other one. Par is in Park Aldenby over in Sweden. He's saying some Macallans I tried back in the 90s were beautiful whiskey. Not so much since, though, not to mention bang for the buck. Well, I think that taints it, doesn't it, Per? Listen, I've been doing a wee bit of research and just kind of reading up on Macallan. And I went back to this book. One of the reasons I love this book is this is actually written by Per Aldenby here. This is Per Aldenby's Enjoying Malt Whiskey. The reason that this is critical for research books like this is that this was written 20 years ago, and this is a reprint, the first refill edition that was reprinted and updated in 2007. So it's fascinating. Read any page you want in this book when it's in the distillery section or whatever, and it's frozen in time, and it's frozen from the perspective of that moment in time, 2005, 2007. And it's really, really interesting to see how differently the landscape of whiskey looks. If Per was to write this or update this today, I think it would be a 60-70% ground up rewrite of this book. Anyway, a cracking wee book. I love the fact that it's soft back as well. It's not hardback, so it's easy to carry around. It's easy to get comfy on the sofa or on a chair or whatever with it. And I was using this to read up on a wee bit of Macallan. So it's great to have Per in tonight. Thank you, buddy. But I've already been reading about his opinions on Macallan. And I think the way he's worded it in that book is really interesting. It does betray his true feelings, I suspect. Tom B is saying, I'll be interested to see whether you pick up a few more folk with the Macallan name in the title tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. I really doubt it. I think that I've come to realize that the great filter of the vPub is its runtime. So people see that kind of 2 hours 46 or 3 hours 12 minutes, or they see that ridiculously long runtime. And if they're just cruising YouTube, they just sweep it aside. So it's only the kind of geeky people, the people that are really, truly interested, maybe the people that start to pick it up podcast style, then they fall into working out what the vPub's all about and things like that. But yeah, there is going to be some interesting thing. I might pick up some new people and things like that. I hope I do. And I hope if I do pick up some people that are fans of Macallan, they realize that it's okay to remain fans of Macallan, still love what you love. But the world of single malt whiskey outside of Macallan is a phenomenal experience. It'd be wonderful to take some people along that journey. It really would. Starting with the incredible Permashelf Deanston 12 Aqvavitae. So no Macallan here. Tim, don't worry about it, my friend. I suspect there's going to be a lot of people looking to drink something other than Macallan tonight, because my community would tend to often not have that on the shelf. Glenn Duncan saying a great example of excellent Macallan is Classic Cut and Prometheus bottlings. Exquisite. Prometheus, I haven't even seen. Classic Cut, I've been able to touch across the years. Famously, back in the day, Classic Cut was focused on markets outside of the UK, so we didn't get our hands on it. Macallan were very, very good at being... I hesitate to use the word prejudice, but that's what it is. I mean, if they decide they're not going to sell this to certain countries, especially if those countries have been their domestic market that's built them up over the years, they just turn their back on it and go off to chase the profit elsewhere. They're a business and they're entitled to do that, but don't expect us to not to easily forget when they do things like that. We'll get onto that tonight. I'm already slipping down the negativity slide, haven't I? Jimmy Legg is saying he's celebrating being a member of the Barflies. For 71 months, your health is my only concern. My health is in perfect order, my friend. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for your concern. Who else have I missed tonight? Ian Williamson celebrating a member for 13 months, saying 30 months already. Where is the time gone, Ian? It's wonderful to have you here, you and Ellen as well. Whiskey with Molly Ben is celebrating being a member for 52 months. You've been on my mind, Ben. It's wonderful to have you in here tonight. I hope you're doing well. He's saying first vPub without my cuddle baby. So Whiskey with Molly. Molly was his black lab and he lost Molly recently. It was heartbreaking to get that message from you, Ben. I hope you're doing well, my friend. You're in our thoughts. It's great to have you here tonight, big guy. Anthony Lambert is saying, used to think Mac was top, then I started learning. I think that's normal, Anthony. See the amount of people that don't really know whiskey, or maybe they just take a glass of whiskey now and again and they hear that I'm into whiskey, they go, oh, what do you think of Macallan? Is Macallan the top? Is Macallan the It's funny how often the word Macallan just pops out. It's just in the kind of consciousness of kind of whiskey. It's just got the Macallan single malt connection or tie in as soon as you mention the word whiskey. Peter Lee UK saying, can we all wish Andy Widdowson and Denise Lee a very happy birthday? How can that be true? So Andy Widdowson and Denise Lee has the same birthday or in the same week, and I didn't even pick it up. So sorry that I've had my head buried in so many other places that I'm not keeping up to date with socials at all. But Peter, there's no excuse for that at all. Let me grab a wee dram and raise a glass to the gorgeous Denise and the superstar Andy, and wish you both the very, very best of birthdays. Many happy returns, guys. Cheers to you both. And thank you, Peter, for bringing it to my attention. And Harrow is saying it's not the Spey malt, but the McPhail. Oh, yes, they have a 12, a 15, or 21-year-old. That's the Burgundy bottling, isn't it? Red Mordecai saying, I lost my voice 2 days after I arrived in the UK. You have some powerful colds here. Yeah, I don't want to risk it, Reb. I think I've kept it at bay so far. I think we're doing all right. Bruce Bernard is celebrating being a barfly for 48 months, Bruce. Hi, everyone. A bit late this morning. Cheers all. There's no such thing as being late to the vPub. Listen, there's lots of chat coming in, and I'm not keeping up to date, but I'll do my best, when I bring things to a full stop, to hop in and interact with you all. Master Chef's Sea Chest, that's Marky saying, the first time I tried a Macallan, at the suggestion of a barman, I was overwhelmed by the sherry influence, tasted it all the next day. Yeah, it's a common thing. It's much more common with peat, I would say. Try peat and sherry, see how you got on with that. Sandro Fatsalari is in, good to see you. Sandro Chalroy, Tamdu 15 is the new Macallan in my humble opinion. Yeah, Tamdu is also one that's slightly out of reach for us on price. Presentation, but the liquid tends to be a little bit like Macallan. Let's be honest. The liquid can often be delicious. Ian Bruce is saying, good evening, morning all. It's a pity that the likes of my granda and other older generational folk who helped build Macallan notoriety. Okay, it looks like he's hit enter and didn't finish that. Sorry, Ian. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a lot of people that excluded from Macallan today that helped build their reputation. Last bottle of Macallan I had, says Jimmy Legg, was the Travel Retail Elegancia. It was really tremendous. See? Positive Aqvavitae. Jimmy, if you can do it, I can do it, right? Cal Taylor is saying, well, Men will be on to talk Macallan Fine and Rare. I don't think Men was going to be on tonight. Nope. And Macallan Fine and Rare, Doc. We can look out for him. He took his name from a range of Macallan products, didn't he? John Albert Ferguson has bought me a wee dram, but he'd said something, but maybe I'll need to look out for you saying something else, John. Thank you very much, John, for your dram, my friend. It's nice to have you in. And Jim Whiskey Novice is celebrating being a member for 70 months, saying, like most, I avoid Macallan, but no, they're good. Cheers, Jim, and cheers, John. I'm starting with a Macallan in the glass. This is actually old branding now, and you can see, I think this has been on the vPub before. There's no cork in this because the cork is actually broken. And I had to tease it out again tonight, and I broke it a wee bit more. So I'm nervous about putting it back in. I've got the corkscrew on hand just in case. I've still got the Easter Elchies gold top here. I hope that that's focusing. Easter Elchies house on the top, established 1824. Is Easter Elchies or Easter Elkies? I think it's Easter Elchies. Not sure. Nobody cares, right? It is what it is. Easter Elkies. Second guess myself now. This is actually slightly out of date branding now, but I've only had this, I don't know, maybe 3 years. It could have been 3 years ago I bought it. I'm not sure. You can see I'm getting through it. I've had reason to drink this and reason to enjoy it. And my overall time with this whiskey has been a positive experience until I remind myself that I paid £90 for that experience. This is a 12-year-old Macallan Sherry Oak in the UK, sold at 40% ABV. So the absolute minimum strength that it can be to be malt whiskey. Because it's Macallan, we can rest assured that it is absolutely natural colour. but obviously they've chill filtered it. They've updated the packaging, and you'll see that soon. I mean, this is the oval bottle. It's really nice in the hand. You can see that there's a cutout here on the front, dimple here for the chevron, the kind of V shape there, and it makes room for the 12 label. The updates have kind of done away with some of that, but kept other elements, kept the oval element. And it might be that they've made the glass a bit lighter as well. I'm not sure. But this is what the branding looked like up until very recently. They had some interesting wee kind of, I'm going to say security things on there, like faux security things, like this wee QR code with a hologram seal on it. It won't focus because it sees my face, right? But let's make it try to focus on that. I don't know what's happening there. No, it's not going to want to unless I use the crowbar. Oh, it focuses now. My goodness. So you can see if I turn that to show the hologram. There we go. You maybe just about see that there. I'd push the cork on, but I fear I might not get it back off again. Let's pour a wee dram. My pal Rolfie is in and bought me a very, very generous dram. One Glassman Warner in Florida saying, celebrating being a member for 44 months, saying Mac's only purpose, impressing your boss or your father-in-law or your friend who's materialistic. Sorry, let's try and keep it in check, Warner. It's good to have you in. But Rolfie, you generous boy, thank you so much, buddy. Good to see you again, Roy. Introvert January is over. I want us to raise a glass to Roy Overmere. He and his lovely girlfriend, Karen, welcomed me in Bergen for the Bergen Whisky Festival in January. I say, visit Bergen. Hey, let's raise a wee glass to you, Rolfie, for your superstar nature, your fun, the fact that you're still around here after all these years. It fills me with joy, buddy. You do. And also your pal Roy in Norway. Where's Roy? Roy Overmere. And congratulations to him and Karen for having Rolfie spend some time with them. Here's to Bergen. Here's to all you guys. And thank you for the generous dram, Rolfie. I'm looking forward to seeing you this year. So, the bottle I've held up is the only bottle of official Macallan that's been in the vPub in 10 years, maybe 8 years, something like that. I think the last one to disappear would have been one of the 1824 series, most likely the gold. It would have taken me a wee while to get through it, and I would never wanted to go back again. The gold was not a good quality whiskey, in my opinion. Maybe some batches were better than others, but what it replaced was things like this Macallan, 12-year-old, and you might recognize this branding. This is a very old bottle. Why have I kept this around? Honestly, because I think I like the aesthetic. I like the appearance of this bottle. This is how the Macallan used to look in the 1990s. And I vividly remember buying these bottles, not for myself, not for me to drink, because I wasn't into whiskey back then. But I vividly remember buying these, believe it or not, from UK supermarkets. And if I was to, I don't know what price I was paying. I think it was £20, £23, £25, that type of price in the 1990s. But that would have been seen as super premium. That was one of the most expensive whiskies, or the most expensive whiskey probably on the supermarket shelf back then in the 1990s. So somebody's already said, to impress your boss, or if you were gifting somebody something nice and you wanted to buy them a nice bottle of whiskey and you wanted to, convey to them that you bought them what you perceived to be the best, then that's what you did. And Macallan did very, very well out of that general dynamic. In fact, they took it from being a domestic thing. We can talk a wee bit about their advertising tonight, and they made it. It started in the 1990s, I would say. It really took hold in the 2000s and things, but they made it a global brand as such. They made it the Rolex of Scotch whiskey. They made it the Bentley of Scotch whiskey. They made it the whatever you want to talk about, other luxury goods. But I think we'll get to why I think it's folly for Scotch whiskey to be luxury of that kind of stature. And we'll talk about the multiples of price and the sheer amount of margin that's added on in order to achieve those price points, and how Macallan are sometimes, and they're not alone in this, playing with people's trust when they do such things. In my opinion, Ewan Cleary is saying, my own issue with Macallan being early in my whiskey journey compared to seasoned barflies is that too many Macallan releases could have cold tea in the bottle and no one would ever know because the collector's market. And I get that. But so many releases from Macallan recently, Harmony Collection, Night on Earth, loads more travel exclusives, the 110 proof, classic cuts, age-stated sherry oak, fine oaks. These are all made for drinking because they're released, and they're thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cases. Macallan's collectability was a very deliberate construction that started a way back in the 1980s. Macallan would actually contract people to put together, you know, guides on how to collect the finest Macallans and things like that. And that was born of products that were genuinely scarce, you know, products from, you know, the 1926 vintage releases through to the 1970s vintage releases, things that were very, very small outturn, very coveted, very sought after, very expensive, of course. And that's kind of the halo effect of those products has shone across the entire brand, in my opinion. Now, that's fine, and that's probably a great strategy as long as the rest of what's in the brand is perceptibly, appreciably good, solid, delicious whiskey. I'm going to put forward the case that the majority of times that is actually fact, with some caveats. Linda Music is saying, Charlie McLean mentioned in an interview that the Macallan marketing budget is 1978 was £50. Much happened since. So this is then a time when, yeah, there wasn't much advertising, but around the 1970s, they got into bed with a chap called Holmes. And it was Holmes, I don't even think I wrote it down, Knight and Ritchie, I think. He founded an agency that became Holmes, Knight and Ritchie. And this artist, this creative guy called Holmes was, and his agency did amazing things for Macallan. Famously, they put a small advert next to the Times crossword on the back page. The theory being that people doing the crossword were intellectuals, aspirational types. I don't know, but it seemed to work. And all of these ads over the years, they changed and they told little snippets of stories and really kind of conveyed this aspirational side to the Macallan whiskey and the Macallan brand. And it did very, very well. But the Times, it's obviously sold to the UK. This was a domestic strategy. This is them exploding the demand for Macallan locally in the UK. Okay, a little bit further afield, but not much back then. And then as they came into the 1990s, they've got this global outlook where they go hell for leather on the branding that you would typically see in, you know, perfumes and luxury goods, high-end magazine print articles and things like that. And that really started to drive Macallan's brand recognition up levels that whiskey, Scotch whiskey, any whiskey had never really seen before. The Macallan M is where things changed the most. That's interesting. I tried the Macallan M and I thought it was fine. Objectively good whiskey until you factor in the fanfare and the fluff and the nonsense around it, you know, and then you look at the price that it was selling at, and it's just, okay, it's good, but it's not that good. It's foolish to be paying that money, but people paid that money. They genuinely did. I need to try and keep tonight's discussion away from, I don't want it to come across like I'm bummed or jealous because I'm not wealthy. And I can't just kind of just go and throw money at it. Just give me it, just give me it. I think the reassurance implied there, if you just have plenty of money, you don't need to care. All you want is the reassurance that you're in return, you're getting the best. You're certainly paying for the most expensive, but you are not getting the best. You are not getting the best. What you are getting is a minimum quality that you can be reassured up until you're not, because I suspect that things are a wee bit different in 2026 than it was for Macallan in 2016, 2006, 96, 86, 76. It's changed remarkably over the years. The size of the business, their target market, their strategies, the range of products available, all of that. But of course, tonight is the vPub, and I want to focus on the liquid. So this 12-year-old sherry oak, I have to say, as I've already admitted to you, I have thoroughly enjoyed every glass that I've poured. I've never not enjoyed. I've never felt like I want to move on to something else too quickly. I've always taken my time, because despite this being 40% ABV liquid, and there's no reason for me to say this other than it's the truth, despite this being 40% ABV liquid, there's a luscious, silky, elevated experience that comes across in this. Macallan is not a light, ethereal, top-note, heavy Speyside whiskey. Macallan's a robust, challenging malt, in my experience. You know, those tiny little dumpy stills do something to the spirit. And I think it's deliberate. And when you take that spirit and you put it into sherry casks, it comes out quite chunky. And I think it's one of the whiskies that does manage to hold a lot of engagement at the legal minimum of 40%. What if this was 46% though? What would this be like with a wee bit more detail, a wee bit more vibrance, a wee bit more texture and mouthfeel, and a little bit of more of a communicative effect? Well, we can play. Later in the stream, I've got the 110 proof here. So we've got 12-year-old Macallan from sherry casks at 55% ABV. Wait, you're saying, what, Roy, 110 proof and it's 55% ABV? That can't be right. That's US proof. No, it is right. We'll get on to that. I've got an axe to grind about that, definitely. But here we have something, and there's a bit of guesswork going on here on my, this is a bit of a gamble, a bit of a risk. The rumour is that the bottle I'm going to hold up to you just now is majority Macallan. This is a blended Scotch whisky. It's not a single malt. But this is the product, a finite product of an accident. This is Thompson Brothers, TBBSW, aged over 6 years. Now, I've not got any official feedback from the Brothers Thompson, from anybody that's involved in the Thompson Brothers bottling or Dorrit Distillery or anything. I'm just going by chatter that's out there. And some of the chatter is from people that I would suggest is they are in the know. And it is their take that this is a happy accident that involved Macallan single malt. Anyway, this is a 6-year-old whiskey, so whatever happy accident happened, the youngest component in this blend is 6 years old. And I need to restock this because I thought I had backup bottles of this, but I don't. I'm out. It's running out now. The Thompson Brothers have, I won't get a glug from this tonight because the level's so low. The Thompson Brothers have announced to everyone that they're now on the last couple of batches. So it's going to start running out. So if you see this, £34, £35, I would suggest this is a good little thing to stash for future drinking, future sharing, future gift giving, that type of thing. In my experience, it's been a brilliant thing to have. So I've still got the taste of that Macallan 12. And on the palate, I've still got it. In fact, let's just do a side by side. This is 46% ABV, the one I've just poured, but the Macallan 12 is 40. Very easy to nose, very soft and approachable. Let's go into Thompson Brothers now. Let's get the glass coated. A little bit more spice on this. A little bit more ABV, it's quite obvious. But in terms of nosing, rich, moist fruitcake and raisins, soft spice, ginger, cinnamon. We've got something in the UK called the serene malt loaf, S-O-R-E-E-N, if anybody knows what a serene malt loaf is. Big whack of that on the nose. Treacle. It's quite interesting going backwards and forwards. They're very, very similar, but this one makes a little bit more noise. I would have to say that it's clear to nose the two of them side by side, and you can differentiate if you kind of have them side by side. But if you were to take one of these away and bring it back to me a bit later and say, is this the 12-year-old or is this the 6-year-old? Do you know what? I'm not that confident. Maybe you would go on ABV to pick it out, but the profile is remarkably similar. There's a bit more of a kind of tannic edge to the Thompson Brothers one, a little bit like tea, strong tea, builder's tea, black tea. And also nosing this one and then going back to that makes this one, it does make it a bit muted, and I didn't find it muted when I first approached it. Anyway, let's have a wee sip of both back to back. 12-year-old. Lovely mouthfeel. I mean, it's really a surprisingly luscious, a decadent thing, and it's not just because I know I'm sipping Macallan, it's objectively there. When you consider that it's a 40% whiskey, it's pretty good. Now the Thompson Brothers. It's the same, but it's got more detail. It's got a little bit more of a sparkle, a little bit more of a kind of, if you wanted to sit with this, take half sips, lick it off your gums, do all the things that you do as you sit around drinking malt whiskey for flavor's sake. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to appreciate the difference between the two in terms of experience. The profile, the flavor profile is remarkably similar. For the people that think that the Thompson Brothers is Macallan, I see where they are getting it from. Maybe they're getting it from information I don't know, but excellent whiskey, easy drinking, delicious, enjoyable whiskey. Remember that the Thompson Brothers bottle that I'm sipping, I think I would, side by side, I would be choosing the Thompson Brothers as my preference every time over the Macallan because of the higher ABV. There might be some grain whiskey in this, but it's not much. It's not really detectable to my palate. Go back to the single malt Macallan. Immediately soft. It's almost like I've taken the Thompson Brothers and put a wee teaspoon of water in it. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But in terms of flavor profile, you really feel like these are related, more than just related by the fact that they're both Scotch whiskies. Look, the big deal here is that Macallan cost me £90, and I can practically buy 3 bottles of the Thompson Brothers for the same price. The Macallan 12-year-old is one of the most accessibly priced Macallans that exists. And I am saying to you at the outset here, yes, I don't want to dwell, because there'll be multiple points throughout tonight. I predict that we will be talking about the exact same thing. We are now at a situation for appreciable quality in the glass. This is higher, despite being a third of the price. Now, I used that Macallan 12-year-old in a vPub a couple of years ago, and I had guests on, and they were sipping these two whiskies side by side, absolutely blind. And on the night, they agreed with that outcome. I don't see how you wouldn't. You know, you would give this to a room of 100 people, the two glasses, pick your your favorite, and I would suspect 60-70% more people would pick the Thompson Brothers if they were whiskey folk, right? If they weren't put off by the more ABV. Both of these whiskies are excellent. If you live in a place where you can't get Thompson Brothers TBBSW 6-year-old, and you want to know what Thompson Brothers TBBSW 6-year-old tastes like, Macallan 12 Sherry Oak is going to give you a good idea. Imagine it with a wee bit more intensity, a wee bit more grip, a wee bit more detail, a wee bit more spike. What's really interesting to me is that the 40% Macallan 12 Sherry Oak manages to retain at least as much of that silky, luscious mouthfeel, despite being at 40% ABV. Really, excellent whiskey of its age. Maybe down to cask selection or something like that, I'm not sure. By the way, I should say that this Macallan 10-year-old, I think I might have already mentioned, we're not opening this or trying this tonight. It's already been opened a long time ago because this is an infinity bottle. So there's no need for me to open this. But I will read out to you the passage on the back. I'm sorry I have to do it using the magnifier of the phone because I can't read these days, even with these glasses on. But fortunately, with a wee help of the technology, I'll try and read the back passage out on this bottle because it's interesting. Bear in mind, this is from 1990s Macallan. Macallan, a mystery of the sherry oak maturation. For reasons not even science can wholly explain, they claim, whiskey has always matured best in oak casks that have contained sherry. Now, this is interesting for the rest of the night. Due to increasing expense and scarcity, other distilleries no longer insist on sherry casks. And then they shift to uppercase. The Macallan directors do. So of its time, right? Journeying annually to the bodegas of Jerez, Spain, they buy fresh oak casks with which they pour mature, carefully chosen sherries, then keep them for 2 further years in Spain before having them shipped over to be filled with whiskey. The results are shown partly in the Macallan's rich golden colour, partly in the nose, and wholly, may we venture, in the tumbler. Very quaint, right? It's very kind of old school. It's almost like this 1990s Macallan harks back to the ancient ads that you would see in newspapers and things like that talking about whiskey. But what's interesting to me there is just how heavily they're pushing the narrative of the time, the narrative that built Macallan's reputation. Spanish oak, European oak, sherry casks, hand-chosen, the finest sherries filling them, and then them being shipped over to be filled with whiskey. This was in the 1990s, so it was post the era where there was no more transport casks involved. Sherry had to be bottled locally in Spain, and there was no more bulk shipping for them to use those casks. So they would have to literally go to Jerez to procure their casks, their sherry casks. So that's where we start the vPub tonight. And I have to say, if you were just having casual visitors in, people around and things, and you wanted something soft and sherry, I think either of these would be very, very easy. But if they left the house and they said, what was that whiskey you served me? You say, oh, it was a Macallan 12. Oh, I'll pick up a bottle. How much is that? £90. What? I think for most of the company I keep, that would be a shocking thing for them to discover. Much more palatable as they walk out the door and say, oh, it was a wee independent Thompson Brothers. You can get it in specialist shops or online, £34. This is what it's called. Here, take a picture. The circles that I live in, there would be shame if I was to recommend a 12-year-old single malt whiskey at 40% ABV and ask them to pay £90 for it, when I can reach to my shelves and pick a dozen whiskies that can compete with that and arguably beat it on multiple different occasions, not necessarily just single malts, for much, much less money. That's the truth of it. But Macallan have done a very good job of reassuring everyone that by their brand that they are getting the best. Maybe you need to be a whiskey geek to know that you're getting very, very good, but you're not getting the best. Unfortunately, in modern times, it's become the case that sometimes you're not even getting very, very good. Where do we move from here? Well, before I get into things, we'll jump into the lounge and see what you guys are saying about it all. Pedro in Brazil is saying, leaving now for a taste and we'll catch up on replay later today. Always great to be with you. All until next time, Barflies and Aqvavitae. Pedro, you stayed for the quiz last week. I hope you pick it up on the replay and let us know how you got on with it, buddy. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of your day, buddy. Nice to have you in. Sid Macher is in. Sid Macher. I never thought I would see Roy looking at a back passage. The vPub depends on your interpretation, Sid, of a back passage. Jimmy Legacy, and then they empty the carefully selected sherry into sherry vinegar containers and sell it. We have to be careful because there's a lot of bullshit from the producers. There's a lot of bullshit from the bodegas. There's a lot of bullshit from the enthusiasts as well. You know, the fact is that there isn't enough sherry sold in order to sustain the demand for the sherry casks. So there are practices put in place to try and make enough sherry casks become available. But it would be foolish to think that they're putting shit sherry vinegar into those casks, because that's going to have a significantly detrimental effect to the whiskey when the whiskey companies that's procuring those casks are paying 5 times more, maybe even more than that again, than what they used to pay for the high quality casks previously. So they want to get to the place where they can put good sherry in. And if that goes off to make vinegar afterwards, so be the case. And I can't speak for all the companies all of the time, but in my experience, there's been kind of lots of, I think there's a lot of enthusiast chatter about everything being done cheaply and shit and poorly. And that's the reason that we don't see the whiskey of old. There may be some truth in that. Generally speaking, in my experience from a distance, I see whiskey producers, going to great lengths to do the very best they can to get the best casks they can to do the best job that it can. They're paying through the nose for this stuff. And some of them are even buying the oak on the tree. I always hand choose my firewood as well, says Piet. Brian Storm is saying, I featured the Thompson Brothers bottle as a mystery at a tasting last Friday. Universally liked and no one could believe the price. It is indeed a gem, a modern classic for me, Brian. Grab it while you can because it will disappear. By the way, I want to say, I'm not saying grab it while you can because the Thompson Brothers have said it's coming to an end. I've been saying that it was going to be a transient release for years. Grab it while you can. Whiskey Vault is saying it's also shocking for me still. Not sure what you're referring to, Whiskey Vault, but it sounds like we're in agreement. Chat jumped. So sorry. Seb K in Portugal, good to see you, Seb. Do you know if Macallan has ever haphazardly selected mediocre sherry casks? There's absolutely no doubt, but their endeavour is to try and select the best sherry cask that's available at the best prices. I mean, they're never going to say, yeah, just give us that crap. You know, it's just... it looks like Raphael is in. Barman di Apartamento, I think it is Barman di Apartamento. That's Raphael in Brazil. He's saying you should buy a proper magnifying glass like Ralphie's. It's more elegant than using your phone. It is, buddy. It is. Yuri Simply About Whiskey is saying, officially bottled Macallan, just a waste of money unless it's 110 proof, 12-year-old, one of the best bottled accessible Macallan. Interesting, Yuri. But generally, Signatory does it much better. Interesting, Yuri, even more. More of all of that tonight. Ben Marnick is saying, I've heard rumours that Macallan could be sold with Suntory favourites. Oh, so the whole Macallan, Edrington is going to sell Macallan? Ginger Genius is saying Macallan whiskey can be great. However, the prices are mind-boggling. When Signature can do it better for 50 to 60 pounds, why try anything else? John, I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you. We could summarise the vPub tonight when there's alternatives out there and we're in the know and we drink the whiskey alongside the alternatives. We know. We just know. Matt B, you, Matt, who are you? Which Matt is that? Nice to have you in. I love the TBBSW. Picked another one up just this week. It's easy, isn't it? buy on site. Klitz is saying, finish with tonight's chore, so I'll run the stash and grab my TV BSW and settle in. Might open my signature 100 proof Speyside M if I'm feeling adventurous. Klitz, maybe you and I can open it together. I'm going to be opening one as well. Real Miguel 87 is saying, Aqvavitae, evening Roy. I was at Edrington tasting last week and it was the same spiel as the 10-year-old's label. They still think the same 1990s marketing works. Everyone is saying, I like the Macallan 12 sherry cask, but because I have YouTube and folks like you, I know better. I know I have better value alternatives. Glenallachie 12, Tamdhu 12, etc. And Whiskey Mechanic, good to have you in, Chris. Whiskey Mechanic is saying, I'm enjoying a Woodrow's 9-year-old 101 proof Macallan, 350, opened a year ago. It's nice and juicy now. I'm going to a Springbank 15 next. You're sipping. Well, Jimmy Legg has bought me a dram. You superstar. They're not putting sherry vinegar in the casks. They season the casks with poor quality sherry that can't be sold as sherry afterwards, only as sherry vinegar. There's not enough sherry sold to account for the casks filled. I think there's not enough sherry vinegar sold either. There's also the argument that if you don't necessarily need to take the sherry out after 2 years and throw it away, tip it away. What's so bad about that sherry that, you know, it can't be put into another cask? Yeah, Jimmy, listen, I would love to see behind the scenes. I'm a big fan of Spain. I would love to just go down the Sherry Triangle. I know it's expanded since. Go to Jerez, go to Bodega, and, you know, one of the, you know, Miguel Martin or something like that, one of these bodegas that have contracts with the Scotch whisky industry, and actually find out and just, what is that liquid? What are you doing with it? It would be nice to see firsthand. Roy, listening through new sound system subwoofer. When you set a glass down like boulders hitting the ground, it's like a vPub in a Transformers movie. I've noticed this recently, and I apologise for it, Trippleberg, and you're not the only one to have mentioned it. I'm going to do it now, so warnings. So if I just naturally put the glass down, now that noise is travelling all the way up the boom, over the shock mount and into the mic somehow. I think that's what's happening. I'm going to just double check that I'm using the right mic. That would be interesting. It is. Yeah. Apologies. I don't know, did it used to happen in the past? Because I don't think I've changed anything. I'll try and be mindful of it and place the glass gently and try not to sorry, to bang things and rattle things about too much. Sorry, Trippleberg, but thank you very much for the dram to bring it to my attention. And Jimmy, thank you for the dram as well. Cheers, my friend. £50, not 350 lol. Yeah, I was wondering what the 350. I thought it might have been a cast number or something like that. Hey, Gary Field is in, and Drew from Arizona, Nick Port, Ian Williamson, Jimmy Legg, Whiskey Weekend, Dram, Trippleberg, all chatting away. Trippleberg is saying no apologies needed. I'm loving the bass sound. Again, that's not intentional either. It's just the same old setup, but for some reason, the noise does seem to be carrying a wee bit worse than usual. I maybe need to upgrade the shock mount and see if that can do something. Anyway, let's shift up a wee gear. I want to give a shout out to a local whiskey shop. Some of you might have read the write-ups today, and at least in one of the write-ups, maybe the write-up I did for the Guardians rather than the YouTube one, I talked about the fact I was going to go into town today and look for a bottle of Macallan, buy nothing else, specifically decide to see if I could buy a bottle of Macallan that would pique my curiosity. But as I was driving in to do that, I realized, do you know what? I'm going to be opening bottles, tasting bottles that are all representative of Macallan, specifically representative of that kind of sherry cask culture. And I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the majority of in fact, everything I'm going to be opening and sharing with you tonight is going to be liquid made at the original Macallan distillery. The Macallan distillery that was closed down quietly in 2016, I think it was closed, 2017 maybe. Maybe there was an overlap. Maybe it went out in 2018. I feel like it was closed in 2017, at the latest 2016 possible. And the new massive expanded distillery was set up and running at full tilt. and it was a marvelous cathedral of whiskey, they called it. Well, other people are referring to it as Whiskey Teletubby Land and things. But it was a massive project, and it showed huge confidence in Scotch whisky at the time. Really quite a marvelous thing to see. But there was something really heartbreaking to see that original Macallan distillery in silence, just sitting there looking a little bit grey, wind-torn and rained upon, and just sitting and kind of neglected. And I remember some of the people at the time involved in the project talking about how, yes, it wasn't really in keeping with the brand when they took people to, it was much easier for them to take them to Easter Elchie's house rather than distillery, because the distillery was very ugly. There wasn't a nice aspect. There wasn't a pretty aspect. Whiskey was never intended to be pretty. If you had a pretty distillery, it was incidental. If we go back to the 19th century when Macallan was born, but people decided they needed an experience with a boutique shop and tasting rooms and a bar and all this stuff, and they needed all of it to be much more kind of pleasing on the eye and much more aesthetic, and that's what they did with the new distillery. Great. They copied the stills perfectly. Macallan famously have these kind of dumpy stills. The wash still goes into two very small spirit stills with steeply descending line arms, all of this lovely stuff. They tried to copy it, and they were very, very confident that they had absolutely matched like for like this new make spirit and from the new distillery with the new make spirit that came from the old distillery. That's great. In my mind, if you closed down Macallan Distillery and built another distillery a kilometre away, 3 kilometres away, 5 kilometres away, 10 kilometres away, would it be the same distillery? Well, it's modern times. It's not the early 19th century anymore. No, it would be a completely new, completely different distillery. The fact that it's just a couple of 100 metres away from the original distillery, 100 metres from the original distillery, it's still a new distillery in my mind. I don't know if that's controversial. I don't know if you think that. So as I'm driving into town to pick up the bottle today, I decided, no, I'm not going to. I certainly knew I wasn't going to be picking up a £375. I've seen it as high as £475. Macallan 18-year-old cherry oak. I'm not touching that. I don't need a 12-year-old. I'm not really interested in the fine oak series, 15-year-old, whatever age statement on it. I'm not interested in that either. I've got enough of that style. I'm going to try and pick up something that doesn't have an age statement, that could be whiskey, that is at least partially and potentially wholly made at the new Macallan distillery. My guesswork, there's no provenance on this, and there's no requirement for there to be such provenance on this. Frustrating, isn't it? Anyway, a wee shout out to the whisky shop in Glasgow, because I walked in after checking to see if Good Spirits Company had stock. They were out. They had no stock of what I was after. So I went into the whisky shop in Glasgow and they said, we've sold out. But hold on a minute. They phoned their other shop in Glasgow to see if they had it, and they just sold their bottle in the morning. They went and got their tasting stock, box and all, and said, do you want to borrow this? It's open. But if you want to borrow this to use for tonight, you can. That's really, really nice. When I declined and I said, no, thank you very, very much, Donald in the shop gave me a sample to take away. Exemplary, welcoming, perfect. Love it. Thank you. Then I toddled on to see if I could find a bottle. I was walking past the Good Spirits Company. I went in to see what was happening in there, as I often do, and asked, and wouldn't you know, they had one bottle left in stock. They had one that wasn't sure online, but they had it in stock. So I was able to pick this up today. And I want to show you this thing. I need to clear some space for it. Get rid of the books. You want to see this thing. And this is what it's all about. This is a perfect example of what it's all about. Just I'll just let it fill the screen. This is the bottle I picked up today. I mean, look at it. It's just a huge thing. It's bulky, it's massive, it's very, very attractive, it's very pretty. If you gave this to someone, there's no doubt that they would be absolutely impressed. Yeah, there's lots of chitty chat on the back that I've read. I'm not going to read this out to you because it's talking about collaborations and all of the great stuff and things, but it is just tiresome marketing babble. It's just doesn't matter. This is a Night on Earth, one of the Night on Earth series. This specific one is a collaboration with Bonnie Brown. I googled Bonnie Brown, and this was about New Zealand, I think, this collaboration, but the Bonnie Brown I found, amongst other Bonnie Browns, was from a sculptor from Australia, and then I stopped googling and I went off to look and do other things. But this is a collaboration this year to celebrate New Year, celebrate the changing of the year from 1 year to the next. So this is a 2025 release. Night on Earth in Scotland was Hogmanay in 2020, and then I think again in 2021. And then we had Night on Earths elsewhere throughout. And we've now at the fourth or maybe fourth release, I think. A Night on Earth, the First Light. This is like an Easter egg to me. It's like a chocolate Easter egg, the packaging, right? Because it's just really, it's much heavier than that. But let's open this up. And inside, look, we have another box to open. And here we contrast in colours. This is obviously the artist's work here. So we can see on the outside there's hints of what flavours we might get. There's floral hints. There's ice cream and confectionery. There's strawberries. There's lots of strawberries on there. And inside it switches up again. It's almost like fireworks scene and things like that. All very dramatic. And then there's a kind of interference fit here. It kind of clicks into place. And you open this up and it's almost, the guy in the shop was talking about how it's like Russian dolls. And you can see it absolutely is. It's just, oh, what's going on? Give me my whiskey. Why have I got a Krypton Factor level puzzle here, sorry, to get in? I think this is a wee pull strip on here. Is that a magnet? Maybe just interference fit as well. And then this hopefully is going to come out here. It's going to take a bit of encouragement. Well, let's get rid of this. Sorry, that did hit the mic. Let's get rid of this big. It's a lot lighter now. I mean, how much money do you think's in this box? It's very elaborate. Very, very elaborate. Anyway. And here we have the bottle. Yeah, this is Night on Earth First Light, 43% ABV, a slight uptick in ABV from our 12-year-old. The colour is a wee bit lighter. I don't know how best to show you the lightness in colour. It won't really show up very well against the low level in that. Maybe it can. If I was to hold it against something white, you can probably see that the 12-year-old is considerably darker. There's not much that we take from that. Despite this being more red, still got the security label. It's still got the same kind of aesthetic of the cork. It's still got the chevron here, although it has changed a little, I think. No, maybe not. Maybe that's pretty identical. Maybe that's pretty similar. I think the bottle that's changed we'll see when we go into that 110 proof. But this bottle looks absolutely identical. It's the 110 proof that's a little bit different. So we might have seen a shift in branding. But this looks very similar. There's the font and things like that's changed. Interesting. You see how the cross and the A is at a different angle on each different A. That's to mimic the shape of the roofline of the distillery. I've known that for a few years, but they're still showing that and displaying that there. Anyway, let's get this open as I give you a fright and let you know how much I paid for this non-age statement whiskey. I'm wondering what best way to open this. Did I just go for it? Yeah, just snap. Nice pop. We should get a nice glug out of this as well. Here we go. Oh, maybe not. Let's try turning it that way. Very little. I don't know, I quite like the glug in a new bottle, right? It's part of the ceremony. So, there is no age statement on this, unlike a 12-year-old. But this was 100 quid. It was £100, this bottle. Like I say, no provenance. They do talk about a mix of sherry and bourbon casks. Not on the back of the bottle. I might have read it online. But here we go. Why have I gone out and spent £100 on a bottle of Macallan? Well, I opened the thing tonight, the vPub tonight, talking about if we're not going to do these things, if we're not going to talk about these things, fine, we never need to buy them and open them. But if I'm going to talk about these things, if I'm going to compare these things, I better know what I'm talking about. The last time I bought a bottle of Macallan was 3 years ago, somewhere in that order. Maybe 2 years ago, that £90 bottle of 12-year-old. And I didn't feel the need to go back and replace it. And I won't replace it, honestly. It's far too expensive for what it is. And I'm much more into natural whiskey with full provenance. This time I've gone back to buy one of the Night on Earth series because I suspect that what we're sipping here is malt whiskey from the new Macallan distillery. This is a completely different animal. I'm just going to stick my nose back in the 12-year-old again. Warm, soft, red tones from the 12-year-old one. Lots of, I think I already mentioned that kind of malt loaf aspect and treacle and stuff. Whereas this is outdoors. It's very top note, heavy, lots bags of vanilla, cooked apples, sweet pears, toffee. I'm now putting it lying on its side, rolling a glass along the desk here. I've got some space. Just get the whiskey, the glass coated in the whiskey. Some spice too, soft. A little bit of the soft kind of ginger cinnamon aspect that we got in the 12 as well. But there is very little to tie these two together in first approach. Certainly in the nose, completely different animal. Listen, we're half expecting that. We don't want all Macallans to taste the exact same, right? This is fine on the nose. Now, I know that I've obviously got a sample of this from Donald in the shop, but I'll gift this on to somebody else. I'll fill this up with the contents of the bottle and gift it on to someone. Because if I'm going to buy the bottle, I want to uncork the bottle I've bought. A wee bit of white pepper maybe, but everything's very soft and in check. Anyway, cheers. Let's see how we got on with our Night on Earth. A lot to unpack, and it's not because the whiskey's super complex or brilliant or amazing in any direction. Let me say, first off, there is nothing wrong with this whiskey. There is no faults. There is nothing that's off-putting or ugly. I know you're waiting for the but, and there is one. The first thing that's obvious is that the 40% luscious silk mouthfeel that I talked about coming from that original 12-year-old Macallan doesn't exist in this. What we've got here, I pour this for any of my friends, 5 minutes into whiskey, or 5 years into whiskey, 25 years into whiskey. Pour this for any of them, they're going to go bang right down the middle of the Highland Speyside style. There's nothing identifiable about this. There's nothing. This is just whiskey. It's good. No awful imperfections, nothing dangerous, safe, a little thin, a little thinner, and a little bit of a drop off on the finish. I wasn't appreciating how long the finish was on the first two whiskies I had until I sipped this. I can still taste this, so there is a finish there. But what's happening on the finish is that it's going a little bit hollow, a little bit kind of saccharine sweet, and a little bit youthful and young. This to me is coming across like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, soft, run-of-the-mill, good quality whiskey that you might pick up anywhere. Any of the Glens, any of the... There is nothing in this glass that elevates this above those. And that's damning because I paid £100 for this. You can see why I paid £100 for this. I don't know what the weight is in this box. It's much lighter without the whiskey in it, of course, but still a lot of heft in this. There's a lot of complexity to this. I mean, it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's, as packaging goes, it's gorgeous, but it's packaging. It's trash. Who's going to keep this? Maybe you'll keep it to store the whiskey in. Maybe you'll keep it as part of the ceremony of getting a glass of it out. I'm not going to keep this. This will get trashed. It's heartbreaking. It's a shame. Give us a wee bit more of that lovely old style Macallan in the mix here in the vatting. Something to give us a little bit of that kind of robust weight, that kind of luscious, silky edge. Okay, that's interesting. So take a wee nose of this Night on Earth and go back into the 12-year-old. Well, that's cool. Even that's nice. And on the Thompson Brothers as well. So what I've got now that I wasn't picking up originally is like a struck match thing. It's not sulfur. It's not eggy. It's none of that nonsense. A wee bit of kind of distant cordite struck match firework. Very soft and lovely. So it's the freshness of this, I think, has helped draw that out. Safe. 5, 6 out of 10 on a dram face scoring. Whereas either of these, the Thompson Brothers or the Macallan 12, could have me twisting my arm to go higher than that quite comfortably. So the Night on Earth is just whiskey. I mean, it's literally generic safe whiskey. I don't... there was a part of me that kind of wanted it to be awful. It is not awful. The finish isn't great. It's not awful, but it's not £100 worth of whiskey. It's not 4 times, 3 times, double its neighbours, its peers. It's not. It's objectively not. I know whiskey and all the realms that we occupy in whiskey is very subjective, and we should encourage that to always be the case, that everybody's opinions has a place. And if you feel it, if you sense it, then you say it, and it's okay, where it's in a safe place. But I think that objectively, I'm struggling to think of anyone that could take this to a place where they could say, oh no, this has got... It doesn't. It doesn't. Don't even know if I'm making any sense. Dollar Pass Whiskey's bought me a dram, though. He says, can we all raise a glass to my friend Don Heaton, who passed suddenly, oh my goodness, on Tuesday after a heart attack at 67. Rest in peace, buddy. Tim, I'm so sorry that you've lost a pal, and I'm so sorry that it happened so suddenly. And I'm very, very grateful for you to give us an opportunity to raise a glass to you, Tim, and to raise a glass for your pal as well. To Don. Rest in peace. Cheers, Tim. Tim, I know you'll be hurting. Our thoughts are with you, pal. George P, so good to see your generosity there, George. Fantastic. You sent out 10 Aqvavitae Barfly gift memberships. So 10 random folk in the chat has managed to pick up a membership tonight. I hope you keep it up. I hope you enjoy watching the vPub ad free as part of that and access to the emoji and things like that. It's only $1.99, whatever your currency is, dollars, euros, pounds. Sachin is in. Good to see Sachin. He's saying, just join. Not sure if you've mentioned the 110 proof European edition Macallan. It is gorgeous stuff. Sachin, if you hang around a wee bit, you might find that it's teed up and ready. Jimmy Legg is saying, why don't you pour a Glenfiddich 12 beside it? You really going to make me get out of my seat? I suspect that the Glenfiddich 12 was already squirreled towards the back of the cabinet as well. I tell you what, Jimmy, I'll do it off air when I've got less bottles to get through. I would like to suggest that there's more to this than a Glenfiddich. Let me see what I can find. Please hold. Occupy yourselves. I hope that everyone heard how deeply I had to dig into the back of the shelves for my pal Jimmy Legg, but he did buy me a dram in order to do so. And I'm going to run out of clean glasses potentially as well, but that's okay. I can nip off screen as well to get a clean glass. Glenfiddich 12, Jimmy, as per your wishes. A fairly recent one as well. We're going to pour a tiny wee amount in. This is our Macallan. And here we go with our Glenfiddich. Green, not just because it came from a green bottle, but green fruit, sharper, more acidic, tighter. Okay, explain that, Roy. More of a kind of precise spike. Fresher. I think the Glenfiddich is bringing out some sherry notes in this one. Maybe not. Let's have a wee sip of the Glenfiddich. Orchard, apple, clean green apple, sweeter, slightly sweeter. Also lighter, less body, a little bit more. I don't want to say it, but I'll have to say it because I can't find another word. A little bit more kind of watery on the Glenfiddich. Okay, no. I think there is a bit more oiliness to the Macallan. There is a wee bit more robustness and a wee bit more weight. But I think the Glenfiddich has got a wee bit more detail, a wee bit slightly sharper, slightly more precise. Cleaner, fresher, white flowers, outdoor, white, light, bright, clean, fresh fruit. A little bit of spice. This is 40%. Remember, this Glenfiddich is 40%, so a little bit down on ABV versus the Night on Earth. Listen, you got me drinking the. There is appreciable flavour in these glasses. There really is. If I was to pick a favourite between the two, mood dependent, I think I might slide towards the Macallan. I have to be honest, but not by much. And if somebody told me, Roy, you can pick up this Glenfiddich for 32 quid, but if you want the Macallan, it's going to be 100 quid, then you'd be like, okay, I'm out. Parachute for Roy. I mean, it's just not justifiable. It's impossible to justify that in our context, in our realm. It really, really is. I hope that helped, Jimmy. Decent cardboard for the fire. Silver lining, says Seb. Everyone is saying, I'm sure the Macallan Night on Earth expression was designed to be sipped in rocks glass with ice. That would be interesting. I'm not going to go and do that tonight, though. Although I do occasionally like a wee whiskey on ice. Just be careful what you're pouring over ice, I think. And some things you might end up wasting that doesn't really benefit. Inverurie Whiskey Shop is saying Glenfiddich is a great dram for that leveler experience. Famously for years, Mike, it's good to see you, fella. It was my calibrator for years. I think I'm more lean towards Glenmorangie 10 or 12. It's just more in reach as a calibrator these days, or one of the Flora and Faunas. So there we go. Anyway, let's move on. We've got more to chit-chat about here. I need to keep these in order. I know what these two are. That's my 12 and my Thompson Brothers. That's my Night on Earth, and that's my Glenfiddich. So I've got, I would say, 3 more bottles. I've only got 2 clean glasses. So if I uncork this bottle that I have here tonight, I think I'm going to have to get a clean glass. But I think I should, and I think I will. I'm going to put the Macallan that you've been asking for, and I think it's going to be interesting to see this rebranding. Is it shorter? Is the bottle shorter? Maybe not. This is not my bottle. This is from my friend Keith round the corner. My pal of, I don't know, Keith, how long have we been pals? 30 odd years. But he brought this round over the holidays and he just left it here. He forgot to take it away. And I said, well, do you mind if I take a wee dram of it? He said, no, help yourself. So it's here. I've had 1 or 2 out of it. I have to apologise. Keith will notice the level on this. He's not panicking though. He's got plenty whiskey. But this is the new Macallan 110 proof, 12-year-old. This gives us a very, very interesting benchmark. This is obviously the European exclusive version of it. 55% ABV frustrates me deeply. 55% ABV, 110 proof. What language is that? Because it's not the proof that we're used to. I don't know what 55 proof is. It's 90 something imperial proof. It's not 110. 110 is this American proof. When is a Scotch whiskey? I might be proven wrong. There might be Scotch whiskies out there that have American proof on the label, but I've never seen a Scotch whiskey with American proof on the label. Let's just, what? Why? What are you muddying the waters for there? Why are you that's just confusing. 100 proof is 57.1% ABV. So 55% proof, 55% ABV, sorry, lower than 57.1 is not going to go up in proof to 110. This is just American proof. So I guess what we take from that is the obvious thing that Macallan's done to us in the past. It's not necessarily for you folks. Our focus is on other places. There's more money here. It's their business. They can do what they like. But they're making it very obvious. Reminds me of the time that Canada and the UK and swathes of Europe were starved of the Macallan age statements. And it was down to stock and a lack of stock, or a fear of there being a lack of stock. So they switched from the age statements that we'd become used to, that had grown the brand, and they brought out the 1824 series, which was gold, sienna, ruby, and something else that I can't remember now. There was 4 editions in the range. And the entry-level one that was priced round about the same as the outgoing 12-year-old was the Macallan Gold, and it wasn't even half as good. It was super frustrating for everyone that loved Macallan. It was like, oh, they've changed it. What have they changed it to? Let me try that. Didn't taste anything like it. It was disastrous for them. They didn't care, because the domestic market, the local market, certainly the Canadian market, certain markets around the world was not a priority for them. But the markets that were a priority in Asia and the USA, places like that, they kept servicing the age statements. They got more allocation. They got more. They got the 12-year-old sherry oak. They got the 18-year-old sherry oak. And yes, the prices crept up over time, but the prices that we could pay for the same liquid when we could get a hold of it was ridiculously higher as well. It was just odd. And I remember my pal Paul McDonough being a big Macallan fan back in the day. At that time, he would have been running the Bonaccord in Glasgow, and he was so disgusted with the switch up that he wasn't interested in stocking Macallan. He was a lifelong fan. He loved the stuff. And he used to have a huge Macallan selection and section in the bar there at the Bonaccord. But when all of the 1824s came out and he was forced to pour that gold for his punters and tell them it was Macallan and it was the same price as the Macallan they were previously paying for the 12-year-old, it felt like, to a hell of a lot of people, it felt like betrayal. And now what we have is we have this really quite interesting product that's come out at a time where Macallan feels like that they are trying to step back a step or two, because there was a time that if Macallan brought out a high ABV 12-year-old age-stated whiskey, there's no way they would be selling it for the price of this 12-year-old 110. This was £125. Currently in the UK, it's not an exclusive release through the whisky shop, but I think it's an advanced release through there. You buy it through there first, and eventually it'll open up to the wider market. I went into the whisky shop today, as I've already told you, and there was stacks of it, loads and loads of it around. But what we have here is an interesting product that we know, being 12 years old, is absolutely from the old distillery, the original distillery. Let's get it in the glass. A lot of you have been singing positive praises about this. It comes with a butt. Much darker. You can see in the bottle how dark it is, but in the glass, it really shows that dark color stays. Wow. I need to roll it around the glass, obviously, but wow. Much higher ABV, much more communicative, lots more to unpack. Now we can show you that this bottle has changed quite a bit. The branding has changed. We now have a kind of curve to the neck here, whereas previously it was straight. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. The camera probably wants to look at my face, right? So if I go out of the way. And also the kind of dimple in the front has changed quite a bit. There's no chevron anymore. It's kind of a soft curve and just a kind of paper label stuck on there. I have to say, in general, it's cheapened it a little, but that's okay. This feels lighter as well. I think this is where they've gone for the lighter glass, maybe. But it's still got the nice feel to it. It's still got the kind of curved Macallan effect. It's still very Macallan in vibe, obviously, but there is clearly a change in presentation. Maybe they've saved a bit of money with this presentation. Who knows? Anyway, this is immediately familiar and reassuring. This is comforting. This is the 12-year-old before you put water in it. There's detail here. You know, yeah, I'm excited because I know that I'm suddenly going to need to stop and take a second and I thought a sneeze was coming, and unpack things a little bit. I'm getting a lot of spice up front, getting a lot of oak spice, a lot of wood spice, soft spice, bacon spice and kitchen spice. Lots of warmth. It's very comforting. The whole experience of nosing this is warm, soothing even. There's a kind of green note out there. I wouldn't say mint. Maybe we'd call it like a tomato vine type green note. Maybe a wee bit minty though, herbal. But everything else is just a big rich rush of red, rich fruit and spice. Fig, deep, ripe, superbly rich figs. Dates, caramel. It's got everything's here. The ABV is is just bringing so much more. You just feel like you could sit with a wee water dropper in this and pick out so much more. Juicy, full, not particularly thick as you might have imagined. I was expecting a bit more of a kind of oily, weighty oomph, but no, that's okay. It's fabulous. Spice, lots and lots of soft. This was available previously from Macallan releases, maybe classic cuts in the past, maybe some exclusive releases. But to be sitting here in 2026 with an age-stated Macallan at 55% ABV, let's forgive them the fact that that's stupidity putting 110 proof on the label. Just, okay, it's your brand, do what you like, but just, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's 55% on the label for £125. Still expensive, arguably still too expensive. For some, far too expensive. But for Macallan, suddenly that's a big step back. It's a big step back closer to where we stand. I'll go a step further. I don't think anybody at Macallan is going to want to hear this positive feedback. There was a time in recent years, 2022, early 2023, that I would have suggested to you with the specs on this bottle, 55%, £125, age statement, Macallan on the label, this would be getting close to a recommendable whiskey. So why, Roy, when clearly I'm so animated and excited about how good a whiskey this objectively is in the glass, why is this not something you can recommend today? Well, Macallan, for everyone that's watching, the table has changed. The offering is not the same as what it once was. This is still too expensive. It's still too greedy. It's still twice the price of what it should be. If Ardnamurchan came out with a 12-year-old 55% ABV product and charges 125 quid for it, the scale of the outturn, I think we would have something to say about it. We know that cask strength Springbank exists. Doesn't exist even close to £125. Some would argue it's a moot point because we can't get a hold of it. I'm just thinking of any of the brands that are close to our heart. If they brought out a 55% ABV whiskey with a 12-year age statement on it, how much would they be charging? They wouldn't be charging £125. And I'm talking about brands that are close to our hearts, not because they're affordable, whereas Macallan is not, but because they are absolutely fantastic. Seismic whiskies that make you glad to be alive. And they're not charging £125 for it. So even when Macallan backstep and come backpedal, let's say, and bring something that we might actually think is a bit more affordable, I think we still need to keep our guard up and say, oh, wait a minute. All of the things that you've been doing over the last 20 years, you suddenly come back just 2 or more steps and you want to be friends again? I think we've got a longer memory. And this, you still want to charge us 3 times more than what this whiskey is worth, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm exaggerating that. Maybe I'm being a bit cruel. No, okay, 3 times more. I think I can get equivalent experiences for sub £40 from what that night on Earth has given me. I think I can get similar experiences to this for £45, £50. Now I know what you're expecting me to hold up. You're expecting me to go for a signatory vintage, 100 proof series, proper 100 proof, 57.1% ABV. That's 100 proof, not 110. 100 proof signatory vintage, Macallan Speyside M, 40 to 50 quid. That's what you're picking those up for. Age statement, typically 10 or 12 years. Why would you buy anything else? That's not what I'm going to bring up. 2 years ago, might have been 3, but I'm going to go with 2 years ago, I picked up a signatory vintage Macallan, and I paid £117 for it. So similar price to that 125 that would have to pay for the 110 proof 12-year-old there. But I didn't pick up a 12-year-old. I picked up a single cask, 17-year-old from a first fill Oloroso sherry butt, 2005, 11th of July 2005, until 16th of May 2023. 57.5% ABV, so a little bit higher on ABV too. Like I say, first fill Oloroso single cask, £117. Now I know what you're saying, Roy, that doesn't say Macallan on the label. People are not going to go for it. That's okay. The people that are not going to go for it are going to pay £125 for 5 years younger whiskey. Off they go. Just let them go. Just fine. I personally think that that's one of the most beautifully presented bottles of whiskey in existence. Signatory vintage decanters are gorgeous. They're a bit fat, they're a bit wide, they're a bit unwieldy, and you're always nervous when you're opening these big corks. But this one's good, this one's solid. But this was cheaper, even back then. Similarly dark, luscious colour, you can see it from the bottle. 17 years old. Look, it's not available all of the time everywhere. There's an incredible shift here. And okay, it makes sense. Think about it is that when I nose this, I'm getting the similar profile as I got in the 12, but everything is attenuated to this kind of rich. There's a damp, mulchy edge to this. There's age to this. There's maturity and poise, and a stupid word to use for such a big, bold whiskey. But there's an elegance to it. The only thing you can get with age. This is a beautiful nose. Dark cherries and dark chocolate. Salted dark chocolate. There's a nutty element to this. Roasted nuts, like a dark, everything's dark. Chestnut. Walnut, maybe. Walnut's good. I don't know, some kind of, like you've opened a bag at Christmas time of nuts. It's maybe a slightly roasted edge here too. And there's a kind of fireplace scenario, not because of smoke, but maybe some of those kind of more fireside elements. I don't want to say the word sulfur because this is so soft. I'm going to just coat the glass. This is Macallan. This is Macallan. £117, 17 years old. Cask strength. Let's have a wee sip. Cheers. This is so interesting. And it's kind of it's almost like a lesson in single cask versus a vatting. What we've got here is this very, very pure, obvious. The ABVs are similar. I think if you were to bring these back to me right now after just one sip and say which of these is which, I think it'd be obvious. So with the 12-year-old, we've got this kind of if you imagine that any kind of these tasting illustrations they try to put together, where everything is kind of filled out where you expect it to be, this would be much more defined and much more spiky. So where this has got that kind of rich kind of fruit, fudge, date, caramel, fig note, this is going in a different direction. This is going for more of it's going to force me to think of what the green note is here. But there's a lot more heft, boldness to this. I think you would nose, and straight away you would be thinking, okay, I'm getting a bit of savory here. A bit of a, you would maybe think you're flirting towards a Mortlach with a kind of beef note, a meatiness, a heft. Comes across on the palate, but it's held together by this old whiskey vibe, old school. A smidge, just a degree or two towards dirty, not too much. A little bit of salt. Dry. Oloroso cask. We don't know if it's American oak or European oak. 2005, probably going to be American oak. Could be European oak. It's a wee bit of dry. It's almost leaning towards a suggestion that it might be European oak on the finish as it goes out. Just that dry, crisp edge as it finishes. Gives it a really nice Moorish finish. I mean, there's just no argument. There's just no argument. There's no, like, it's, even if somebody sat down and you told them the prices of these whiskies I've been sipping with you and said, okay, what do you prefer? And they would say, oh, this one, this one, this one. And you told them how much they had to pay for each experience. For the majority of the people I know and hang out with, that would attenuate their expectations. That would make them potentially change their mind over what they would pick up. No doubt. Mike Molasses is saying, that's the key. Nothing wrong with the whiskey. It's just that we can find the same or better experiences for less money. Absolutely. Mike is saying, I heard from one of the gatekeepers at the distillery that Macallan actively sought out the top 10% of buyers, hence the restrictions on entry. That bubble will burst very soon. I think it's already gone. I really do. Black Fen is here. Good to see you, buddy. Edredale 12 cask strength. Official bottling, 59%, 75 quid. Just all the bits are filled in with that one as well. I think, Conrad, I think it's a great recommendation. And I think it's something I'll seek out soon. I muted the mic there to let out a wee burp. I hope that's not oversharing. But I'm super nervous when I do that I've got the wrong mic selected. And everyone in YouTube land just gets this big. Anyway, Whiskey Vault is saying, we had the Dutch Macallan sales rep in the store this year. I asked about the Signature Vintage releases and if that stirred anything in the company. He said they never talked about it. Kind of surprised me. I'm not going to share if they did talk about it. And it's probably more honest presentation of Macallan, says Trippleberg. Alistair Gray is saying Glenalec cask strength, same experience as that Macallan 1210 proof for half the price. We're going to get more and more and more of this. And I think this is where I'm going to draw the carriage up and talk about the fact that it's okay to oversell. If you are the best at what you do, if you are the absolute assured best and you can guarantee that you're the best, and every time that somebody buys your product, they're going to get the best, overselling is almost justifiable, right? Because people are like, okay, I don't want to take the risk. I need it to be the best. I'm going to gift it. I'm going to share it in this environment. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to indulge myself from a special occasion, whatever it is. They need the best. Then overselling, you could argue that there's an argument for it. You know, I want the best watch because I'm not just buying it for me. I'm going to pass it on to my son and hope that he passes it on to his son. So whatever your watch brand is, you know, Omega, Breitling, Rolex, whatever it is. Car, a car, you know, if you're going to pay extra, you're going to say, you know what, this this SUV, this Skoda is going to do everything I need it to do. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. It's faultless. But, you know, I'm going to get so much more out of this Porsche Cayenne or whatever it is. You wear that watch, it's appreciably better than something that costs 1/3 of the price. You get in that Porsche, everything you touch, every contact point in that car, all the features, all the switches, the door handles, the way the door closes, the way the thing drives, everything is going to be appreciably better than the car that's 1/3 of its price. When it comes to Scotch malt whiskey, there is a chance that one could be appreciably better than something that's 1/3 of the price, but it's unlikely. Why? Because it's a consumable product, and it's very, very, very tightly controlled how you can make it. The process of how you make whiskey is so tightly controlled that in order for one distillery, one brand, one producer to make something measurably 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times better than a competitor, even if they tried really hard, I argue is impossible. Glenallachie, as Alistair is suggesting, Tamdus, Glengoynes, Edredowers, any sherry forward whiskey that you're thinking about, and if you pour them in the glass, you might find differences one glass to the other. You might find preferences one glass to the other. But as soon as you put price into the mix and you realize that there is a brand out there that's charging 3, 4, 5, 6 more times the price, we're complaining about the standard 18-year-old being an average price of 110, 120 pounds these days, maybe more. But the price of Macallan 18-year-old is 375. And depending on where you are on the planet, you might have to pay more than that even still. It's too much. And the reason it's too much is because the brand has been allowed a position where it is able to oversell. As soon as there is only one, they are the one. It's down to us as the people who care, the people who spend, the people who sip, the people who take notes and write things and share things and talk about things. We get vocal and we get animated when we can taste the differences in the glass. And we want to articulate that. But we want to tell people, especially when people are spending money on things when they maybe shouldn't need to. We want to talk about the fact that this is active overselling. And I know that it's a lifestyle product and it's a luxury product, and I know there's justifications for it everywhere. But in our place, the reason that it's not appeared on the vPub for years is obvious. We can get so much more pleasure multiple times over than we can from putting our money in the Macallan camp. Notice throughout tonight, I haven't argued about chill filtration and how detrimental that is to whiskey. Macallan suffers from that. Notice how I haven't talked about the fact that malt whiskey, barley produced malt whiskey, should be handled and treated differently from grain whiskey or blended whiskey. I've been trying to keep everything just through a malt lens. I think it is being, unfortunately, oversold, and that is my justification for speaking very little about Macallan over the years. I'm going to finish tonight with one bottle where you're all going to be asking me to eat my words. Inverurie Whisky Shop saying, great point. At one point, Macallan were the best quality. However, when they increased the price, they lost the best quality to the best value for money. Seb is saying, with that burp, you just knocked all the barflies listening with subwoofers off their chairs. Please tell me nobody heard it. Everyone is saying Macallan is capable of making superior whiskey. They just don't these days. They're selling luxury and exploiting our brain's desires for rarity. They're not selling whiskey for us. I agree, Chris. They're not selling it to us. We are not the target market. Annabelle is still here. Annabelle, so nice to see you. So what can we say about the positive from the OBs? that's positive from the OBs. It's hard. That's genuinely hard. What's positive? That the 110 proof 12-year-old is attenuated in price, that they've actively taken steps to pedal backwards. That release could have been 225 just a couple of years ago. That's the best I can do, Annabelle, sorry. Trippleberg is saying it's about perceived value versus actual whiskey tasting experience. Marketing has driven the perceived value. I don't doubt marketers are professionals. They do a fantastic job. It's amazing. Sadly, money, wealth is how most of the world keeps score on people's worth, says Everwind. Macallan is just on that bandwagon, in my humble opinion. Whiskey Vault is saying, good night, everyone. Nice to catch you live once again. Soon we'll catch the rest on replay. Cheers, Aqvavitae. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, Whiskey Vault. And Dan DVDW is saying, I think the main beef our enthusiasts have is that it's not that exciting. It's well consistent and crafted, but doesn't surprise or challenge us enough. And it's expensive. I would agree with everything you said there. Some people don't want to be challenged. Absolutely true. But when we get into whiskey the way that we get into whiskey, when we fall in love with whiskey, and when we're looking for the nuances and the flavors and the flashes and the spikes and the neck pour is saying that they have nice bottles. Question mark. New Zealand Davis saying, do you feel it's the sherry producers who are actively trying to chase a safe luxury market? I don't know. It does seem to go hand in hand with sherry-leaning brands. There's a Whiskey Rev in tonight. How's the Whiskey Rev doing? Nice to see you in, fella. It's been a wee while. I might see you soon, right enough, right? I'm not sure, Dave. I'm not sure. It's a good question. Jimmy Legacy, the best thing I can say about Macallan is that I've great memories of it. That's interesting as well, isn't it? Kind of bittersweet there, Jimmy. Sean Causer is saying, good to see you, Sean. With our Big Ten cash strength coming out too, they're coming back to us slowly, but more expensive than they should, Aqvavitae. Doodle Drama is saying, can I have that Night on Earth box for my 4-year-old? She'd love it for playing with. Arnie, it's yours. Absolutely. If it can be recycled into something, you can have it. Ian Williamson saying, time to head off and catch the rest on replay. Thanks, Roy, and all the barflies for the great chat. Ian, thanks to you and Helen tonight. Nice to have you both. And Drummond Art is saying, IB Macallan has been scoring very well on our Lisbon barflies blinds. No doubt, and I bet you some of it's going to have been from Signatory as well. The Whiskey Rev is saying, used to have an awesome tour guide. It's a positive thing to say about Macallan. They used to have an awesome tour guide. I'm sure they still do, but they don't have you, fella. You were an awesome tour guide. I'm going to get into the quiz at the end. We're coming up for the 2-hour mark. I'm going to share the quiz with you, but there's an elephant in the room, and I need a clean glass for it. So for the second time this evening, you're going to see me do the unprofessional thing of stepping away from the camera. Give me a second. Apologies, but Jimmy Legg forced me to dirty one of my glasses tonight, so I've had to go. I'll get a wee tulip-shaped Copita here, one of the inter-whiskey ones from the Whiskey Fair. I think this is a Limburg glass. Love it. And I'm going to pour something that's particularly special. I'll take you back to summertime last year. I'm standing in the middle of a really, really busy whiskey fair, talking to Angus McRailed about a project, how we could collaborate together. And just to lubricate the discussion, let's say he brought a bottle of something in his hand and he poured it for me. And he didn't tell me what it was. He just poured it and we both sipped it together. And I gave him the basis of what I foresaw as something I could start to do with independent bottlers. I didn't talk to him about the time of the concept of a virtual malt or whatever. I just talked about the idea of doing a collaborative bottling together. But that ended up being the virtual malt bottling. This is a Decadent Drams bottling, of course. It's an Aqvavitae bottling. There's a wee verse on the back. You can pause the screen if you want to read it, I suppose. And the Barfly's on there as well. First time I've done a collaboration with an independent bottler. Everything I've done up till now has always been with the producer, with the distillery themselves. So he was talking about, well, what do you fancy? What are you into? What's interesting you? And what was in his sample that he'd poured into my glass stopped me in my tracks. And I said, well, what's wrong with this? Now, the interesting thing about it is that it's so away from everything that I've done before. All the collaborations with the distillers is to try and get as close to their pure spirit as possible at whatever age, whether that be Loch Lomond, Daft Mill, Ardmurchan, Glasgow, Arnaho. All of them have tried to get the purest take on their spirit. But when I'm going to an independent bottler, we can be much more creative. I knew it was going to be coming out at Christmas time, or I hoped that it could be. So this was perfect. And I said, what's in the bottle? And he said, it's Macallan. And I said, okay, what do you have? What do you have available in Macallan? That's what brought this to life. It's a true story. This is also a 17-year-old Macallan, and I'm going to sip it on the back of the other Macallans I've had tonight. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to sell any Macallan. I'm not here to sell the Barfly bottling. But there are still bottles remaining of that. It is not cheap. 17-year-old Macallan at 55% ABV. Okay, 55% ABV. The 12-year-old that you saw there that we opened tonight, that's 55% ABV, 5 years younger. This is £155 versus £125. So I'm asking you to pay 30 more extra pounds for no Macallan on the label, maybe hints at Macallan on the artwork, and 5 years extra maturation. But that is objectively, comfortably, easily, beautifully the best whiskey that I've sipped tonight, and that makes me very, very happy. And I'm not here to sell this to you. I don't care if it sits around. There's still a couple of dozen bottles available, maybe more. I don't know. If it sits around for ages, there's more for me to buy in the future. It is everything I've had tonight. This thing gives me one thing extra on top, and it's an oiliness, it's a thickness, it's a richness, it's a lick off your teeth and scrape off your gums. Can you maybe see it in the glass? Oiliness is somehow much easier preserved. Okay, much older whiskey, but usually bourbon casks seem to be better at it. Sometimes the spice and the effect of a sherry cask can mask the oiliness a little, but this is preserved. The reason that this is at the level it's at is I've been using this as the benchmark. And when my friend brought it round, we did it together. We sipped mine against this and we compared the both. Through gritted teeth, he had to concede that the Decadent Drinks bottling, the Barfly's bottling, was better, demonstrably better. I shy away from Macallan, despite the fact that I love the history. I love the history of how it came about in the 19th century. I love the way that it's been a stalwart of the Scotch whisky landscape for 200 years. I love the way that marketing was so modest and humble and yet perfect and clever in the late 70s through it. I love the story behind the fact that they were able to take one of the 100 Scotch malt distilleries operating at the time, 100 plus, and make it into a global blockbuster brand. Every time I sip the liquid, when it's presented well, I'm reminded that they make perfect liquid. Very, very, very good liquid. But time and time again on the vPub, we realize that it's not the liquid that they make, it's the liquid that they bottle. And in some cases, it's more than that. It's the liquid that they bottle and how they choose to sell it. These are the reasons that I've not connected with Macallan, because I'm not one that can afford it, because I'm not one that's currently interested, and because I am one that is told regularly, you are not welcome. Whether that's through the liquid, whether that's through visiting the distillery, through the prices, through the packaging, there are multiple ways that they can communicate to me that I am not welcome. The feedback, go on to TripAdvisor today in 2026 and look at the reviews coming back for people visiting the Macallan distillery in 2026. It's heartbreaking. And it might be because they're positioning themselves as an exclusive brand, but they are missing the fact that they are Scottish. And that is everything that I take pride in about Scottishness and hospitality and welcoming, and, you know, the hope that people come back despite the fact that they're going to get rained on constantly is just missing there. It's the identity is bizarre. It's also worryingly, potentially transient. New Zealand Dave is saying different drams, but Virtual Malt is pure magic, on a par with the Loch Lomond 10-year-old for me in terms of experience. It demands time. Dave, you're in New Zealand and you picked one of those up. It means so much to me to get that feedback. Yuri is saying, sorry for off topic, Roy. What's your opinion of Short Highland Park? 18 from Thompson Brothers, left-hand side of you on the middle of your shelf. Oh, this one here you're talking about? I think that might, Yuri, that might be one for another night. We have to remember this was an 18-year-old for, I think, about 60 quid. I bought this at a festival for next to nothing. It's not a good representation of 18-year-old, supposedly Highland Park. It is not. But it's a fantastic sipper for 55, 60, 65 quid. Whatever it was, I paid for it. A ridiculously fair price. I hope that answers your question, buddy. Jimmy Legacy and Aqvavitae. I've been in Scotland for 27 days, and it rained on 2 of them. There are a lot of people that say that, but if we manage expectations in such a way, then you can be, you know, pessimism never leads to disappointment, right? Okay, what am I missing here? Danny Hebbington celebrating being a member for 36 months. And saying back from Gibraltar with bargains galore. Superstar, Danny, well done. Oh, sorry, it's Danny Keenan. It's not Danny Hebbington. Sorry, Danny. And I saw some of those prices you were seeing in Gibraltar. It's less than 30 quid for the Signatory 100 Proof series. Incredible. Andy Hells is celebrating being a member for 4 months. Of course, Helen has been a member for much longer. Evening, Roy. Info work in the virtual dram poured. Wonderful. Let us know, Andy. Honestly, just tell me honestly what you're thinking of it. Stevie O, my pal Stevie down south, he sent 20 Aqvavitae gift memberships out. You superstar, Stevie, you generous man. Thank you for giving 20 people, random folk in the chat tonight, a subscription to keep everything ad free and get their hands on those colourful emoji. Dave is saying, is it only sherry drams chasing safe luxury? I picked that one up, Dave. And Jimmy Legg's pointing out, hey, the Rev is here. Jimmy Legg asks for you often, big guy. I'm talking to the Whiskey Rev there. Jimmy Legg is often asking if you're ever around. I paid for more than that bottle of whiskey, more for that bottle of whiskey than I ever paid before, I ever will again. There's only one reason, the people on the label. Thanks for creating it. Jimmy, I hope you get a chance to drink it. I would be super curious as to what you think of the liquid inside. I suspect maybe you haven't tried it yet. All right, everyone. The summary is Macallan make wonderful whiskey. Or at least, in my experience, the old Macallan distillery made wonderful whiskey. I have yet to have a glass, bottle, pour, anything from what I perceive to be the new distillery that fills me with confidence. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think they're there yet, which is why we're seeing these bizarro releases, Night on Earth in Scotland, famously getting panned across the globe. We're getting these Harney releases that people are either excited about or devastated about. We are seeing Macallan right now wobble. And I wonder, when we put people that are more versed in luxury products in charge of the steering the ship, I wonder how long it is before the ship starts to scrape on rocks and sail in far more dangerous waters. I think we could be there now. Everything that I've enjoyed tonight is absolutely from the old distillery. The only one that's potentially from the new distillery is by far the poorest, by far. And I want to go and remind everyone that it's not terrible. But the Aqvavitae is saying, well said, it's the first name of the product, Scotch malt whiskey, and I'm English. That's okay. Most of my audience is from my neighbours down south in Englandshire, and it's a pleasure. Andy Hales is saying, sumptuously good whiskey. That's the 17-year-old Barfly bottling. I agree. Barflies, good night all, going to bail, says Seb. You're not staying for the quiz, big guy, but it's been brilliant to have you in. You're an hour ahead, of course. Good night, Seb. Cheers, and welcome everyone that's joining for the quiz. Please hang around. I suspect that tonight's quiz is potentially a little bit similar to last week's, but it's always very, very difficult for me to work out whether it's a tough quiz or a not so tough quiz. I think we were doing a quiz on Jeff's stream on Saturday night. We were celebrating 5 years of Jeff whiskey. If you're interested in such a thing, it was great fun. Go along and watch it. It ended up being a ridiculously long stream. You think the vPub is long. Saturday night's session was very, very long. But there were people that stayed throughout. It was amazing to see. And if you're picking this kind of content up podcast style, then it should be fine, right? But as we're going through that, and we got to the quiz at the end, I think it was Pete admitted that it's very, very hard to put a quiz together where you know the balance of the questions is right. It's easy to put together a quiz, any quiz, especially multiple choice, but to get the balance right is tricky. So you can judge me tonight as well. Absolutely. Whiskey with Molly saying, apologies, Aqvavitae. Had to pop off for over an hour there for work, but I'm back for the quiz. Of course, yeah. You're always here, Ben. It's great to have you, buddy. And Class is saying, the problem I see, even if the new distillery produces great stuff, that capacity will soon make it less valuable. It's always been a kind of weird thing, isn't it? The third biggest distillery in Scotland is making out that it's the most scarce. Contrived scarcity. Andy Hells is saying, if you haven't already, can you wish the lovely Denise Lee the happiest of belated birthdays? Andy, thank you, big guy. Peter was in earlier and he reminded us. Can also take the opportunity that now that you're in to wish you a happy birthday too, now that you're here. Listen, everyone, tag Andy in the chat, Andy Hills, whatever emoji you want to use, but just wish the boy a happy birthday. He deserves it. Many happy returns, Andy. Cheers. And happy birthday to Denise too, of course. Good summary, Aqvavitae, but the economic reality is there. There's still thousands of billionaires in Asia willing and wanting Macallan's product. They aren't interested in indie bottlings, and that's good. Well, in that case, Discordia, that's more for us, because we know. Cheers, Roy, says Andy. A pleasure, my friend. Okay, let's roll into our quiz at the end. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a wee like, because I might consider doing this once or twice a year, just to kind of dial in and focus in on specific kind of global brands that probably don't get a lot of vPub attention. If you're thinking of hanging out with us for the quiz at the end, remember, it's fun. It's always meant to be fun. You're just playing against yourself. You can follow the lounge if you want to. Lean on those guys if you're struggling a wee bit. But if you are playing against yourself, know that it's intended to be a wee bit tricky. It starts off easy, and then throughout the quiz gets harder towards the end. We finish on an asshat, a deliberately awkward question. So there is a bit of luck involved. Watch out for the banana skins and watch out for the asshat logos as well. Question 1. Good luck, everyone. Which of these Speyside whiskey brands feature a bird in flight on their current bottle design? Birds in flight, specifically in flight. A. Altmore. B. Arran. C. Glenelgan. Dribbleberg is saying this was fun to focus on one brand. I think Dribbleberg, I couldn't be sure. I was trying to rack my brains earlier. I think it could be the first time that we've done such a thing. Thank you for the feedback. Jimmy is saying I'm always playing against Graham Fraser. We all are, buddy. We all are. I have never and will never win. Well, you then aspire to draw with him. Go for a 10 out of 10. Probably in a similar night that Graham gets it. Is Graham even in? Is he here? Daisy's here. So good to see you, Daisy. Nice to welcome you in. Just try and draw the chat back. Sometimes it jumps and sometimes it freezes. Fortunately, I've got a way around it. Franz G is saying the UK price for 110 proof seems really odd. I paid $115 after shipping, distributed and tarified. Why would they do that? It's got a little bit to do with UK duties, but it's mostly to do with regional pricing, unfortunately. It's currently a whiskey shop exclusive, so it's fixed at £125. Maybe once it's not an exclusive anymore, maybe the price will get attenuated or come down a wee bit. I'm not sure. Anyway, birds in flight, Altmore, Arran or Glenelgan. I can tell you all, look out for the banana skin. Sometimes you get a freebie to begin with, but not tonight. It's only 2 out of 3 for the opening question tonight. Arran does have birds in flight on the bottle, but Arran is not a Speyside distillery. I wonder if I caught anyone out. The sharper-eyed among you will not have been caught out by such things. Which of these Speyside whiskey brands feature a bird in flight on their current bottle design? Question 2. Spot the completely made up A Night on Earth release. So we're back on Macallan. I'm going to give you 3 A Night on Earth releases, one of which is fake. That's the one that you have to spot. A Night on Earth in Jerez is A. A Night on Earth, The Journey, is B, and A Night on Earth, The Meadow, is C. Which one is fake? My pal in Edinburgh, Gav, is in. Gav Strams. The first comment I get from him is just him saying shit. Oh, I shouldn't be laughing, Gav. I know you're probably really upset with me, but there was a banana skin in the question. It literally said Speyside. I love you, buddy. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Hopefully get to see you in Leith, Gav. Great to have you in, buddy. Graham Fraser is saying on the train home after whiskey dramming in Glasgow. Aqvavitae. Good to have you in for the quiz at the end, buddy. I hope your signal stays up. You are our benchmark for tonight. I can tell you that the A Night on Earth release, A Night on Earth in Jerez, is real. A Night on Earth, The Journey, is real. The Meadow is the fake. There is a Harmony that talks about the meadow or meadows or something. A Macallan release, but A Night on Earth, that is a made-up thing. Altmore 12, anyway, the bird is not in flight. Spreading its wings, yes, but clearly on the ground. Aqvavitae. Ben is raging. Ben, if you... I'm going to grab the Altmore bottle, okay? Give me a second. Oh my goodness, I love the vPub. I love you guys. You're fantastic. let's blow this up. Sorry for people that are listening audio format, but we've got a bottle of Altmore here, and I'll hold this up and I'll let it focus on the bird. And I'll let you decide if that is a bird on the ground or a bird in flight carrying a fish or something, a bird of prey style. And if you decide that that is not a bird in flight and that is a bird on the ground, then you know the rules of the quiz at the end. You can take the point. That might just save Gav Strams. Perhaps not. Let's see. Cheers, Ben. Anyway, C was the one we were looking for question 2. We move on to question 3. Macallan was originally known as Elches Distillery. Which other huge global brand changed its name in the 19th century? So we're looking for a distillery name change, the same as the change from Elches Distillery to the Macallan, or Macallan Glenlivet as it was originally renamed. What other distillery did a similar thing? Out of these 3, A, Glenfiddich, B, Glenlivet, or C, Glenmorangie? Ben is saying, I got it right, just happened to be drinking Altmore 12. That is amazing, that coincidence. Carrying a fish, fair Aqvavitae, I'll let you off. I'm not sure if it is, but I think it could be. Or it could be on a tuft, or a branch, or an arm. Take off and landing, still in flight. When you hold the bottle not straight up, it is in flight, says Petehead. Ian Bruce and Petehead chiming in there. Terrific. Okay, we're looking for a distillery that changed its name in the 19th century. What are we going for? We've got lots and lots and lots and lots of B's for Glenlivet, because of course it was originally at Upper Drimmen, wasn't it? That was the name of the farm. Actually, I think if you read into the history and you get into the weeds about it, it's actually the Glenlivet became 2 distilleries merged into one eventually. Anyway, yes, I'm looking for a B on that one. Glenlivet changed its name in the 19th century. Question 4. Oh, sorry, I've put in a wee kind of Glenmorangie here. If you answered C, you would technically get that, because Glenmorangie was originally founded as just Morangie Distillery, and then eventually later changed its name to Glenmorangie. So if you were willing to argue that, you could have taken that one too. Question 4. Lechick's entry-level Sinclair Series Rioja cask finish was launched in which year? So this is, if you watched this on Saturday night on Pete's 5-year celebratory live stream, it's one of his favourite whiskies, one of his best value whiskies. He loves this stuff. I think it's a reasonable whiskey. I think it's priced well. I think it's an interesting thing to get people into whiskey, especially at the price point. I don't love it, but what's interesting to me is the year that that was launched. How long has that Rioja cask Sinclair series been around? A, since 2020, B, since 2022, or C, since 2024? Super Dukism is in. I recognize that logo, Super Dukism. Is that, could that be you? Did I design that logo? £27 in Sainsbury's at the minute in the UK, £27 for the Rioja series. I'm convinced that logo is Daniel. Is that Daniel? Can't remember where you are in Canada, Daniel. I think you're Alberta, somewhere around that area. It's been a while since I've seen you, big guy, but we have met in the past, and I'm pretty convinced that's my logo design from years gone by. Come on, what do you think? 2020, 2022, or 2024? Seems like, despite the banana skin, I cannot catch you out. I feel like that's only been around a couple of years, but it turns out that that's been going as long as 6 years this year. That Lechick Rioja cask finish Sinclair series, we thought it was going to be a series, maybe hinting at an annual or a maybe biannual even, I don't know. But it's still the only one that's available just now. I wonder if they'll quietly put it to bed. Question 5 is always a picture question. We're going to look at, ostensibly, the entrance to a distillery, and I'm going to ask you, there is a wee ass hat here. I'm going to ask you to know the answer to 2 things. Not only what distillery this is, but what region is it in. This distillery that we are looking at right now, is it A, in the Eastern Highlands, B, in the Northern Highlands, or C, is it in Speyside? Daniel at the Whiskey Throttle says, Graham Young. Good to see you in, Graham. Aqvavitae, it is my dear friend. Good to see you, buddy. I knew I spotted. Super Dukeism isn't a name that I recognise, buddy, but I recognise that logo. Daniel, I hope you're keeping well, my friend. It's nice to see you in the vPub. It was quite a few years ago that we met, eh? Okay, good stuff. Are we looking at a distillery in Eastern Highlands or Northern Highlands or Speyside? Stevie O thinks he's guessing C, but the majority of the crowd, with very little, in fact, no deviation that I can see, everyone thinking that it's Yuri is suggesting Aberlour, and he is absolutely spot on. So not only is it actually Aberlour, spot on Yuri and everyone else, but it's also a Speyside distillery. So some of you are going to be sitting on 5 for 5. Let's move into the tougher last half of the quiz. Question 6. Upon arriving at Clynelish, you realise the visitor centre is closed. Heading further north, but staying on the mainland, how many distilleries could you visit today? So we're looking for distilleries north of Brora and Clynelish that you could visit because of the news that Clynelish are considering closing their visitor centre. Travesty. Terrible. Times are tough. Let's stop selling, right? A, another 2 distilleries. B, another 3 distilleries. Or C, another 4 distilleries. A2, B3, C4. Stevie O is on a full marks, 5 out of 5. Same for Graham Fraser, of course. Kyle Taylor, a slip up this week. Kyle, stay with it, my friend. Stay with it. Trippleberg is celebrating a 5. Obi-Wan Obi is on a 4. Falsgraf is on 5. Dave the Brave is on 5. Dorpass Whiskey celebrating his pass mark on a 5 out of 5. Billy Bennett 5. Lachlan McKenzie 5. Nicholas J 5. Lassie Hort Otsman 5. Along with Neckpore, Randy Rice, Bruce Bernard, Jimmy Legg, Jesper Bach, Bob Wenting. My goodness, more and more and more and more and more of you. Is the quiz getting a wee bit too easy? Visiting means visitor centre. No, visiting means the ability to visit, in fact, to the point that they advertise it. That may be through an open visitor centre or just actively encouraging visiting. Clarification, Aqvavitae, that have a visitor centre. Ben, I hope I clarified that. The truth is that there's one of them. I'm not sure if they have an official visitor centre, but they certainly promote visiting them on their website. So I hope that helps you. 2, 3, or 4. Graham Young is going for 4. Lots of people going for C that would agree with Graham. 1 or 2 others, like Randy Rice or Bob Wenting or Lassie Otsman is going against that. Robert Rutherford is also going a wee bit against it. Nice to have you in, Robert. Nice to welcome you here. Time to change your mind, big guy. Only if you make an appointment for C. Super Dukeism is saying 2018, I believe. Oh, is that when we met? Wow. Majority of you absolutely right on it. North Point Whiskey with Molly actively promoting tourism of their distillery on their website. So I'm going with 4. North Point, Wolfburn, 8 Doors, and Pulteney. So if Clynelish closes, it's heartbreaking, it really is, but just continue driving up north. Question 7. What is the correct order of these Islay malts in terms of sales volume by brand globally? So I'm going to put up 3 lists of 3 Islay malts, and I want you to pick the one that's in the right order, going from the largest sales to the 3rd largest sales. Hope that makes sense. A, Lefroig, the bestseller, followed by Lagavulin, then Ardbeg. Or B, Lefroig, the bestseller, followed by Ardbeg, then Bowmore. Or is it C, Lefroig, followed by Bowmore, and then Bunnahabhain? What's the correct order in those options? Starting to get trickier now. Need to hold it together. Lefroig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg. This is global sales based on cases of whiskey, based on bottles sold. I'm going to go straight from the Aqvavitae Macallan into the 12. $110 proof. Brora is strictly north of Clynelish and can be visited, so needs to be added also, says Frank Peathead. There's truth in that, Frank. I maybe should have rephrased the question to make it clear that I was talking about if Clynelish closes, Brora closes as well. But if you want to take that point, you know the rules on the quiz at the end. Big guy, take the point. It is tricky. Dang it, that's difficult, says Klaus. Absolutely. I can tell you that all of the questions, bar maybe one this evening, are all from the Malt Whisky Yearbook. And it tells us in there that Laphroaig is the bestseller. Lagavulin is the second bestseller, just a nudge ahead of Ardbeg globally. A is the correct question for those that answered A. Question 8. I bet the UK sales are well different to global. Absolutely, Ben. There's absolutely no question that that's the case. Question 8. In the 2026 Malt Whisky Yearbook, there are 156 Scotch malt distilleries listed. Excuse me. How many do you think were listed in the 2010 Malt Whisky Yearbook? The reason I picked 2010 is just because, I don't know, there seemed to be quite a shift after 2010. I don't know if that helps you at all, but how many were listed in 2010? A, less than 100 distilleries were listed in the 2010 Malt Whisky Yearbook. So we've had theoretically over 56 distilleries since 2010. Or B, 100 exactly, so literally 56 new distilleries listed since 2010. Or C, more than 100, so somewhat less than 56 new distilleries listed since 2010. How many distilleries were listed in the 2010 Malt Whisky Yearbook? Should have been a banana skin on this one. For about the 4th time tonight, I'll slink off and I'll grab the Malt Whisky Yearbook. From 2010. I never disappear off camera, and I think I've managed to do so about 4 or 5 times tonight. Okay, how are we doing with this? All over the place. This is really splitting the crowd, so we're going to get some attrition here. But I can tell you that, surprisingly, there were less than 100 malt distilleries listed in the 2010 Malt Whisky Yearbook. This is the 2010 Malt Whisky Yearbook here. And I hope this camera is going to focus on that. Maybe you can see there in that middle section the total in brackets, 98 malt whisky distilleries. Now, after 2010, that's when things really got crazy and we saw an explosion. I mean, this is including things like Glengyle and Rose Isle. They'd already happened since then. Kilchoman, Daftmill, they're already included. I mean, it's the explosion since 2010 is when it's really gone absolutely crazy. Quite amazing. Quite amazing. Penultimate question. You're writing in very small digits, says P-Head. Question 9. Macallan accessories are also very expensive. It's not just the whiskey. Anything with the Macallan name on it is very expensive. What a question. What am I doing? How many bottles of Macallan 12-year-old sherry oak? I've already told you the price, and I'll tell you again tonight, £90 in the UK. Maybe 92 some places, maybe 88 some other places, but that's the price. How many bottles of that Macallan 12 Sherry Oak could you buy for the same price as a set of 6 Macallan oak and leather coasters from the distillery shop? How many bottles of whiskey could you buy for the price it would cost you to purchase that 6-pack of Macallan coasters? By coasters, you know what I mean by a coaster. Here's a little paper coaster with my friend Jim on the logo here. This is Whiskey Novice Jim. This is a coaster, something you put your drink on. This is a paper one. I'll help you by telling you that the Macallan coasters are made of oak and leather. Red leather specifically, if that helps you. Okay. A, just 1 bottle, obviously. B, actually 3 bottles of 12-year-old Macallan Sherry Oak for the price of those coasters. Or C, 6, a full bottle for each coaster. So that would suggest that just the one, I'm in the order of £90 for 6 coasters of oak and leather from Macallan. B, it suggests that I'm in the order of £270 for 3 bottles of versus 6 coasters. Or C, 6 bottles, 1 full bottle for each coaster. So somewhere in the neighbourhood of £540 for 6 wooden and red leather coasters. C, says Jimmy Legg, because people deserve it. Let's go for the crazy C, says Falsgraf. C, says Bruce Bernard. Andy Hills is saying C. Daisy is saying C. Simone in New Zealand is saying C. Come on. More. Donorpass Whiskey is saying madness. Pete had no clue at all. B. Lagla McKenzie is saying, oh, misunderstood. C. Steve Atkiss is saying C. Good to see you, Steve. Graham Young saying C. Of course it is. Graham Nicholas is saying C. Where's Roy in Norway saying B? It can't be C. Ian Bruce is saying C. And the Whiskey Rev is also saying I'll jump in for C. Okay. It is for 6 Macallan oak coasters with red leather. It is C. You could buy 6 bottles of already overpriced 12-year-old Macallan Sherry Oak for 1 bottle for each coaster. Have a look at this. There's the coasters there on the right-hand side, £550. Even more expensive, actually, than 6 bottles of the 90 quid Sherry Oak, 12-year-old. That tumbler in the middle is 160 quid for a glass. And if you want, if it's raining... If it's raining in Speyside, it's going to cost you 300 quid. Oh, Jesus. If you think I'm making these prices up, all of these prices and products were taken from the TripAdvisor reviews and the official Macallan website. This is legitimate. This is actually happening. So if they're doing this to sell you products with the brand on it, they're treating the whiskey in the same way. Sorry, I know it's supposed to be positive whiskey happiness in 2026, but that's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, take a brolly. Make sure you pack a brolly if you go to Macallan. It's the ass at the end. How are we getting on? Peter is saying, boy, I'm so glad I got that wrong. Jimmy Legg is saying that glass is made of octopus skeletons. So, Super Dukeism is saying, I think it's time to sell some of my Macallan if they're willing to spend that. Dan DVDW is saying, why would you use a £300 umbrella that's going to break like any other umbrella at the first hint of a gust of wind? I mean, the thing is, Dan, is there is a good chance that that's the best umbrella that there's ever been. It's never going to break. It's just amazing. But how many umbrellas can you get through in life at £5 each? I don't know. Maybe it's environmentally responsible to spend £300 on the Macallan umbrella, but We're at the stage of beyond farce. Does that umbrella cook your dinner as well, says Ben. Super Dukeism says it's positively hilarious. I mean, we're in Scotland. It's like a captive audience. Everyone's going to get pissed on. Everyone's going to need a brolly at some point. And if you find yourself at Macallan, and you were to walk up and say, do you sell brollies? They would have to say, yes. Just 300 quid with a straight face. A night in fecking space, says yes, back. Oh, it's like an alien life. I don't know what it must feel like to be that wealthy. Anyway, question 10. Always an asshat, always designed to be deliberately awkward. How many Aber distilleries are currently operational in Scotland? That means a distillery with the word Aber in the name. How many are operational in Scotland? Exactly the same as the number of years of age stated on A, the first Ardnahoe release, B, the Clydeside Napier, or C, the first Cairn release. Exactly the same as the number of years of age stated on A, the first Ardnahoe, B, the Clydeside Napier, or C, the first Cairn release. My last two umbrellas were advert presents, so they were branded, obviously, class. Yeah. Freebies. Blair Stevenson is insane, but this is the brolly come in a fancy box. You know, I'm not going to spend 300 quid to find out, but it'd be nice to understand. I tell you, it better come with some kind of benefit. 200. I'd rather be soaked to the skin than have spent 300 quid on a brolly. When I've got a waterproof layer, literally my skin. I don't know why I find that so funny. Literally selling brollies to people visiting Scotland and having the barefaced cheek to charge them 300 quid. It's just too much. It's too much. Oh dear. They do get slightly less rain in Speyside than they do in the West Coast. That goes for something, right? Anyway, almost everyone is going for C on this one, which suggests that you're saying that there are only 3 Aber distilleries. The first Ardnahoe release was released at 5 years of an age statement. I hope that helps. The Clydeside Napier, 6 years of an age statement. It's not bold, but it's written in the text. That might help. The first Cairn release, 3 years. It's actually written right across the front of the first Cairn release. I opened it last week. A very enjoyable wee whiskey. I was quite pleasantly surprised with that. A wee charmer. Jimmy Legg is going for C as well. Yuri is going, put your dram on the coaster under the rain. To put your dram on a coaster under the rain costs £1,000. So the 300 quid brolly, 160 quid for the glass, absolutely. And the coasters is 550 quid. But there's still no whiskey in the glass, Yuri, that's the problem. The neck pour is saying, think how much Ardnamurchan could sell a brolly for. It constantly rains there, and where else would you buy it? It's true. And I bet you Ardnamurchan, they're just selling regular fair priced brollies because it's, oh dear. Anyway, well spotted, everyone. Superb. It's amazing, but we've only got Aberlour, Arbiki, and Aberfeldy. That's the only 3 Aber distilleries that we have. So all of you spotted C for that one. There's going to be some decent scoring tonight. How did we go on? Why is the asset up? There we go. We want the 10 up. How many managed? An 8 out of 10 for Lassie. Well done, Lassie. A brilliant score. Bruce Menard got a 9, as well as Andy Hills. Ian Bruce is celebrating a 10 out of 10. Well done, Ian. Fantastic score. Congratulations to you. Nicholas got a 9. Randy Rice on a 7, along with Donner Pass Whiskey and Jesper Bach. Daisy and Simone on an 8. Oh, just big jump. Any other 10s? Any other 10s? Big Jimmy Jazz. Jimmy, I didn't even spot that you're in tonight, playing along and celebrating a 10 out of 10. Congratulations to you, big guy. I'm going to see you very, very soon, and I'm looking forward to it. 9 out of 10 for Steve Atkins and Peter Lee. Fantastic. Any other 10s? Any other 10s? It's been a tricky quiz. Graham Young is saying 9 out of 10 slipped up. You know, Graham, it was deliberately intended to try and trip people up a wee bit tonight. A few really horrible questions, and we laughed, but I actually had a conversation, says Ben, the other day about making a product for idiots. Lewis Hamilton spent £120,000 on a weekend away recently. There is a market for morons, or people that just have forgotten the value of money. Like I've said throughout tonight, I would love to have some perspective, but there's also part of me that doesn't want to have that perspective, and I know how that sounds, and I don't mean it to come across like that. But if you're just kind of throwing and chucking, and P-Head is saying congrats to the 10 out of 10s, well done. Though you should be ashamed that you got the coaster question correct. And Andy Hills is saying, well, that's me off to bed. Thanks for a fun vPub, Roy. Aqvavitae, and thanks for the birthday wishes, everyone. Andy, stay up a wee bit later, put your feet up, kick back, celebrate another year round the sun for yourself. You're a superstar, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Let's get rid of this. We can ditch that, and we can get the end credits scrolling. The vPubs ahead are scheduled. Well, let's wait. Let's not. What I've enjoyed about this week specifically is the ability to pivot and change at the last minute into something that I was more in the mood for. I'm reaching out to guests and things that will tie me down to doing very specific things on very specific nights. But rest assured, the guests I've reached out to are just the people that I want to share with you. Hang out with good people, good whiskey people, and bring hopefully some interesting chitty chat that you can all enjoy. That's all ahead. If you want to hear more or engage a wee bit more or get in touch with me directly and send me direct messages and that type of thing, you go to aqvavitae.com and sign up to support at the Aqvavitae Guardians page, and that's where you'll find me. To everyone out there, whether you're still on Patreon, Facebook Barflies, any social media channels, or indeed even in the Aqvavitae Guardians page, I apologise for being a little bit distant recently. I've found it beneficial to me and to my kind of way of managing things, mental health and all of that stuff. But I find myself drawn more back into it now. There's more of you there, and the people that are there are the people that I want to hang out with, the people that I want to connect with, and it's an absolute privilege. Thank you all for your support. Aberargie, you mean not Arbiki? Oh, sorry, I did say Arbiki, didn't I? I do mean Aberargie. Thank you, Klaus. I'm glad you're here tonight for correcting me. Simone is saying, glad to finally catch a vPub and quiz live. Thanks, Roy. Really, really good to have you here, Simone, especially since it's Friday for you early in the day. And Dan is saying, thanks for another great Thursday night, Roy. Dan, you're always welcome here. Thanks for hanging out with us. New Zealand Dave is in as well. Great to be on replay. Not to be on replay for a change, he's saying. Would love to see more of those deep dives. Thank you, Dave, for the input. Ian Bruce is saying, cheers, Roy, for an intriguing and entertaining vPub. I really had a good laugh. And Whiskey Throttle Daniel. Whiskey Throttle's changed his name back, so I know who you are now. Great to see you still going strong. I figure out my name change at some point. Daniel, it's just brilliant to have you in, buddy. Great to see you. Daisy is here saying, thanks for another great vPub, Roy. Good night, everyone, and see you next week. Hope to see you in Leith as well, Daisy. I'm looking forward to it. And Yuri saying, thanks for a great vPub. Roy, good night, everyone. And Anthony McGee is saying, I've just joined in time to say good night. We'll have to watch and catch up. I'm in Athens with work and found a fab whiskey bar. You've done the right thing, Anthony. I hope you do enjoy this on the replay, buddy. Anthony and Yuri, good night. Whiskey with Molly. Thanks, Roy. Cheers, pal. And where's Roy over me? The quiz was unfair and the topic was not my taste, but it was great hanging out as always. I love you, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you this year, Roy. I hope you're doing well. Kyle Taylor is saying, we are getting any recycling done anytime soon. Well, you never know. The bin has just been emptied this week. It might be time to clear the floor in the vPub. Kyle Taylor, stay tuned. And Randy Rice is saying, great discussion on Macallan, even though not what I'd usually buy. And that summarises the evening, doesn't it? I'm going to raise this wee glass of this 12-year-old 110 proof. It annoys me that it's 110 proof and not just... Anyway, I've said what I wanted to say tonight. I've enjoyed myself. I've enjoyed hanging out with you all. And I look forward to doing the exact same next week. Until then, I'll raise this glass and remind you all that you're very dearly loved. And until then, to your very good health. Sláinte mhath. Cheers.